Hello, everyone, and welcome to State of the Realm. Yeah, we're back. We weren't gone very long for Ultimate because Ultimate wasn't very long. We're going to be talking about it this week. Everything Futures Rewritten Ultimate, the fight itself, of course, the drama surrounding it, the State of the World race, and sure, we'll talk about Picto a little bit as if it hasn't been talked about enough. I'm one of your hosts, Mr. Happy, and of course, joining me is Sly. How you doing, Sly? How was your casting for the World Race event?
It's pretty good, pretty chill. Again, huge thanks to Sydney for coming along for the ride and coming up with the cocktails and everything. I mean, honestly, most of it was her. A huge shout out to her, Frosty, and Echo for bringing us on to even do that because again, it was pretty chill. But yeah, we were honestly during our stints we were paying more attention to the race than actually talking about the drinks. We were locked in. We were honestly locked in on clears.
Speaking of locked in on clears, we have some special first-time guests joining us for the show this week. The team that came in first during the World Race event, Kindred, has thankfully agreed to bring some of their members on I'd say relatively short notice. I'm very grateful for them joining. We have 4 of them here. We haven't done a 6-person show in quite some time. So let's do a quick sound off. First up, we have, and hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, Immo. Hello, Immo.
Hello, guys. Hello, chat.
Is it Immo or is it emo?
Emo.
Okay.
I've heard both.
Okay. That's why I asked. All right. Next up, we have Kareth. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello,
chat.
Hello. Then we have Calypso. Welcome in, Calypso.
That's me. Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
And finally, we have Nari. Welcome.
Hi there.
Thank you for being the one to get all the members together, by the way. I just reached out. I was just like, I literally went to Twitter and typed in Kindred, and your name came. I was like, Kindred Final Fantasy 14.
So for this episode, Nari was the Wrangler. Nari was the true Wrangler.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Nari.
It's funny that my name came up first because technically Perry's the lead, I guess, but Frosty retweeted my clear pick, so I guess that's maybe why it came up first or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you also follow me on social, so that might have been. Twitter's really weird.
Might have helped too.
Yeah, it's really weird how Twitter determines. There are some people I type in their exact names, they don't come up. Some random zero bot follower account pops up as the first result. So who knows?
You got kind of lucky. Perry might be the worst person to reach out to.
That's true. He wouldn't have responded to you until 30 minutes ago.
And then would he be like, all right, I guess I'll come.
Yeah. There's the funny story about, Kareth I think has me beat, but my trial for this group, I reached out to him. He said nothing, and then 2 weeks later he messages me, "Hey, can you trial tonight?" It was good.
Worked out, I guess. Right? I think it's fair enough.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Very thankfully.
All right. Well, we've got a lot of voice on the show, so let me just get the sponsor out of the way. Thank you. Well, out of the way. Thanks to Patreon members of Patreon for sponsoring. Nobody has to support. All content's available for free. Nothing's paywall. There's just some people support us over on Patreon. And so I like to give everyone over there a little shout out right here at the start. So appreciate y'all for doing what you're doing, supporting the show. Sly sipping on a little drink, little crema drink for you, little crema bourbon. Is that bourbon? Is a little crema bourbon? Yeah. Yep, you're muted, Sly.
Oh, that's right. Stream Deck isn't connected to this Discord. Oh yeah. But yes, it's crema bourbon.
I like the crema bourbon. Maybe I'll get some crema bourbon. I got birthday bourbon too. I got to get all that. Sly, that's my birthday.
Is it actual literal birthday bourbon? No, because there is a thing called, Old Forester birthday bourbon.
No, I didn't know that, Sly. I just meant a treat for me because I'm at the December baby here. But yeah, now I'll keep that in mind now.
Yeah.
All right.
You should get it. It's good if you can find it.
Yeah.
Good luck.
All right. So, we get to be here. We're not still trapped in jail, everyone.
True.
Hell yeah.
Amazing.
Did y'all celebrate with Thanksgiving food? Did you have
Yep.
like the NFL on Thanksgiving Day, the winner gets the turkey because of the whole Madden thing. So you get the little drumstick. Did y'all celebrate with food or anything?
Celebrated with sleep.
Yeah. I think that's.
I had whiskey the night of, and then sushi the
Let's
day after.
go.
That's what I'm talking about. Yo, I did the same thing. I didn't even clear first. I did a glass of whiskey and I did sushi that night. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I drank that night, and then I went out to dinner with my girlfriend the following day, and she said I was completely addled. I didn't think I was, but apparently I was.
Well, before we
You
get to
start doing,
oh, sorry.
you start doing call-outs mid-dinner.
I don't think so. but-
That's when you know that's the top is what makes you do that. Not this. This isn't the place for that. Top, you wake up and you just be like, all right, Sigma's coming up. Oh wait, what?
Turkey stack.
Party
Turkey
synergy. What? Here you go. Yeah. Did you all think we'd actually be here? That you'd be able to even use your PTO to be on the show today? That you so painstakingly put aside for a potential 2-week prog that everyone was mentally preparing for?
I was hoping to at least have a week extra, and I got a week and a half because the fight is free.
No, it's FRU.
Oh yeah. Sorry,
Yeah,
my bad.
yeah.
Boo.
I definitely
Boo this man.
we were like because we planned ahead. We were gonna make sure that we were like committed to racing as well as we can. Like we all planned for the worst, so we were ready for the 2 weeks and all that stuff. But I was personally expecting less than a week. I wasn't expecting 3 days, but I was expecting less than a week.
There.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I think that seems to be the number one surprise for everyone is that FRU was our fastest. I think it is the now fastest ultimate world race that we've had. I believe
By one day, I think.
Yeah, I think T was 90 hours and this was 70, something like that.
Yeah, this is almost exactly 3 days.
Yeah.
Which
Just under.
I do want to clarify. This being the fastest, I don't actually think it's the easiest.
Yeah.
I think it was simply that like its structure lent itself to faster prog, but it's not like some of the execution it asks for and like precision of positioning and stuff is it's actually really hard.
Yeah, and I was about to ask all of you, you Haps included, where would you put this on the list of ultimates in terms of difficulty? Like what's your top? No pun intended. Yeah, I knew Happy was gonna go there. What's your like most difficult ultimate, and where would you put FRU on this list?
Are you taking them as they came out on content, or just if you were to do them today?
Let's say on content, because I mean we're talking about prog and everything here. So,
All right, who here did Ukov and you on content?
Oh, well, I did, but I didn't get to do the Ultima solve, so maybe Mr. Happy did.
I did, yeah. We spent the first day in Ultima. We blew through Garuda, Ifrit, and Titan. Spent like an hour on La Habrea, and then the Woken thing was found. So it was like day one, basically. That whole idea was, and then it was 2 days of lining up Titan jails. You know, that was great. It's actually really hard because I think it's difficult to separate your experience when you were there versus weighing in the additive experience of each. Cause like UCOB was pretty rough on release. Like it was tough. Like the first 2 phases, not so much, but like Bahamut Onward was like really slow prog to like go through each of the trios, and then Heaven's Fall was a huge wall, and then Grand Octet was a monster to figure out back then, when realistically Grand Octet's just like, nowadays if Grand Octet popped up, it'd be like, yeah, they just dive bomb in order. Like you just have to, like, you'll easily figure out the order in like 2 pulls.
Yeah, it's like I mean I wasn't there, so I don't know this for sure, but the community is definitely just better, higher skilled overall since then. Partially because UCOB came out. Like UCOB came out and people got better to be able to do it. And now we're here, kind of thing.
Yeah, normalizing for player skill. When you compare something like the Endwalker Ultimates to FRU is one thing, but to normalize for player skill between UCOB and FRU that's such an impossible task. You're taking 2 communities that might as well be completely unrelated. Like that's how far people have come in their consistency, their mechanical abilities, their job knowledge, their game knowledge, their problem solving methodology, their teamwork capabilities. Everything has just evolved by light years since then. So it's really hard to kind of nail that down as an objective difficulty comparison. At least as I've done TDSR top and FRU on content, so I can at least attest to those. I do think FRU was the easiest of all of them. It was certainly the easiest of all of them except T. I'd say T is the one that kind of is up for debate, mainly due to the Enigma Codex being, such a factor in T prog, whereas FRU's puzzle didn't really lend itself to much of an increase in prog time. But if I had to rank them, I'd probably say FRU, T, DSR top in that order from easiest to hardest.
I would agree, but I'd equal. I'd put T equal to FRU personally, and it's the only reason. It's factoring out T's puzzle basically. The Enigma Codex being harder to find makes it technically harder to prog on content, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And another big thing is I guess we'll get to this in a second. It's like we haven't had an actual puzzle since T either.
True.
So it's really, it makes me wonder why everyone's like, man, the puzzle this time was nothing. And
Well, the DSR is technically not a puzzle, right? It's just you just hit the tank LB, but it did eat quite a bit of prog to do that and figure out exactly what we needed to do there.
There was also the subsequent puzzle that checked if your eyes were open at the end of P5.
The pocket sand.
Yeah,
Pocket sand.
Oh, gee, that's suspicious.
It's funny.
It's probably one of the only boomers on Kindred. I guess hardest to easiest would probably be, and I want to clarify that difficulty is not correlative with fun at all. Top is a dog shit fight. But it is the hardest. And then there's DSR and FRU, pretty much kind of equal, and then T, UCOB, and then Ultima.
Are you in the camp that if DSR didn't exist, FRU would have been much, much more challenging in perspective of players?
Sorry, could you repeat that one more time?
So if DSR never came out, let's say if this was the first Ultimate after T, like DSR was, or if you're ranking them equally, do you think that this would have been as difficult to prog on content without that experience?
I think things like ultimate relativity would have been harder. I don't think the puzzle would have been solved any faster, especially because if the last thing you got walled by was a puzzle, you're going to put even more effort into looking for it. But things like ultimate relativity and crystallized time might have tripped people up a bit more, because being very used to and acclimated to arbitrary party list prios was kind of a big win for those mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the big thing for sure, is that top more so than DSR. Progging top gave you the tools to address the hardest version of mechanics that they're going to throw at you, which are role agnostic random mechanics. And you don't always want to apply that tool set to every mechanic, because if it's not role agnostic, it's better to solve it in a way that takes that into account. But it is your ultimate failsafe. It will work in pretty much any situation, and it speeds up prog a lot, having that kind of in your back pocket as something to fall back on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely felt like even in phase 1, there's spots where you just do a quick panto prio. You're just oh, that's panto prio. Just do that, and you're kind of just done. The whole mechanic is solved at that point.
Or if you're like us, you say that, and then it ends up being a free-for-all that works anyway somehow.
We still have no idea what our solution was for the very first light party mechanic in P1. We just did it.
The end of Utopian Sky. Yeah, it was just people just went to stacks and it worked, I guess.
Yeah, it was incredible to watch. I was I don't think anything is going on here. I think it's just happening.
Damn. now I feel like me immediately going to the prio. I was like, this guy's not good enough to do without the prio.
I do think, though, broadly speaking, though, the point about DSR and top really is the fact that I think the prog experience of those has added so many mechanic solution tools into the toolbox compared to what we had before DSR and top. Like all of these party order prios. I remember conga line and DSR. That was like really stupid, but conga line was game changing in terms of like how people approached priorities at the time. And now it's like second nature even for like people in PF, not just like world race.
Yeah, the entire community has leveled up a lot, even from just watching Ultimate in some capacity. Because
absolutely,
those skill sets are just invaluable when it comes to just shortening prog time on everything. So yeah, that's why FRU's difficulty is so hard to judge, because DSR and top already exist. And I don't know about you, I don't know that they can make anything harder than DSR or top without it feeling like top and it being miserable. I don't know that they can even do that.
They would not be an easy task, but I think it is possible to manifest difficulty in a way that feels maybe less unfair than it did in top. Mainly because like
time stuff, I'd assume, like just a lot more of that.
Potentially. I mean, I guess one of the biggest issues people had with top is that it was like the entirety of the solemn vow for all of P5. Like if anyone dies at any point, everything explodes. People generally really dislike that, and they call that unfair. And I think people perceived the whole Dynamis jump stacks thing as kind of unfair difficulty, like unreasonable, and that's why you see AM be used for that so much in PF. So if you avoid, I guess, those kinds of design methodologies, that does leave you some room to increase the difficulty in other ways. I guess the big one is like, there is no hard limit on how long the fight is, right? Like they have been subscribing to this school of thought that it should be an 18-minute cutoff pretty much from start to finish, not taking into account the DSR door boss. But, these phases could just have an extra fight. They could have 3 or 4 more minutes of mechanics that don't feel super ball busting, but are fun to do. And that would make it significantly more difficult because prog time is basically an exponential function of encounter time. But that doesn't seem like something that's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, imagine like a crystallized time level chaotic mechanic in a phase between Gaia and Shiva and Pandora, right? And another 3.5 minutes added to the fight every time you're on a clear attempt.
They could also like move away from like I feel like some ways they design these phases like could easily sneak in more mechanics without even necessarily like increasing the runtime, because like, okay, good example is like the start of Shiva. Like that phase shows up and she endwalkers you, right? She shows up, she busters you, and she like leaves for like 10 minutes, right? Like she doesn't need. Every endwalker ultimate does that like 12 times, and it's really bad and it's really boring. But like that doesn't have to be that way, right? Like it could very much be a mechanic there. The boss could in P1 could be like targetable after like Utopian Sky, and like there could be complications with that. There are ways to like add additional difficulty to these mechanics that like I think previously with how unrecoverable top and DSR was would seem unreasonable, but with like how recoverable FRU is, like fuck it, right? Like I don't know, there doesn't seem to be much of a reason to not just like make the players do something that would normally be too much.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at even if you maintain like starting with a tank buster, like a tank buster doesn't have to be the tank stand in front of the boss and get hit, right? Like we even see in Pandora, there are interesting tank busters going on, stand in the cleave, close far. You can have a mechanic like towers going on at the start of a phase and still have tank buster raid wide or whatever it is, right? And just make it more interesting, add to the prog time. and still keep that philosophy if that's something they really care about.
Yeah, there's absolutely room for it. Nari?
That said, I do actually like quadruple slap, mostly
Yeah.
because it's a tank buster with multiple solutions. Like you can just there's multiple ways to do it right. You can swap it, you can cleanse the thing, you can invuln it. Like it's all good. But
It's very
but yeah, I
interesting.
agree. You could have like there's other people spreading at the same time or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Chat's even saying like Valley tank busters.
Gallagher, yes,
Yeah,
Gallagher, man,
yeah, that's great.
That was my biggest hope for coming into Dawn Trail was seeing the mountain fire or whatever it's called, and that being one of the coolest things in the whole fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that buster. It set the bar way too high.
It baited
And
us.
everything after it was like, oh yeah, what if like we just like fired?
What if we
the
did
guy
that
came up
again?
with that idea? Yeah, like,
Yeah, what if quadruple slap just like fires like a second thing off to like the nearest group of players or something? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, like Paradise Regained is like as Immo just said, is actually a fantastic example of this. The tanks are each getting hit by 500,000 damage twice, while the party is also doing other unrelated mechanics. Like that's a good buster.
And the tank positioning is only
And the
simple
tank positioning
after
matters,
you've solved
yeah.
it. Yeah, because like solving it, and I'm sure you have plenty to say as one of the groups that was at the forefront of solving it, but like solving that was not as easy as, oh, one takes the hit and the other is in or out. It's like the way that the tank buster actually functions to do the swing each way for each half of it is very relevant to solving the mechanic for the rest of the party.
Yeah, it did. They did pretty well in that aspect though, because it felt fair, unlike Cosmo Dive, which was
my God.
like it's really hard to impress on people how utterly torturous Cosmo Dive was from a like bleeding edge or blind prog perspective. They're like, what do you mean?
God.
You just stand here. I'm like, you don't get it, bro. Like you
It is
don't
that
understand.
mechanic was so hard to parse out what was happening and how to target how it was targeting people. It was impossible.
Bro,
And
we
that being 18 minutes into the fight is like, ugh.
were measuring pixels on the FFlog's replay map, trying to figure out how this was working. It was awful.
There was a period of time where we were using a clip from another team, and that made us think that it might be targeting the people that are moving while everyone else is still.
God.
it was
Forward.
See, that's
Invisible
more of a puzzle
players
than
are so
anything.
stupid.
Is that
It
right
is.
there?
It was.
Yeah.
Well, that's the bad kind of puzzle because it's just like
Right.
obscured information. Whereas like
Yeah.
something like Paradise Regained is like you see what's going on. You just need to figure out how to fit the pieces together.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
there's
I really
more than
like
one
Left
solution
Right.
to stuff like Paradise Regained. Like the way you actually want
Yes.
to do it is different also. Yeah. So since we've already started diving around the fight a little bit, normally we go phase to phase, and we'll do that for what we can, but feel free to jump to other phases for examples or anything like that. Phase 1, Fate Breaker. Easiest phase 1 specifically of all?
Utopian Sky did not need to be downtime.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a comeback after Prismatic, and nothing would have been better and not that much harder.
It is really easy, but it's way more fun than top, and it has a really redeeming feature. Okay, it has a hidden feature. Anyone that's
Oh,
progging right now, don't let your teammates sway you from this. After you get knocked back and you have to run in with the stack, you can get across the midpoint of the arena. You just got to be really fast.
Oh, yeah,
and
I've
buffer
done
a
it.
jump before you get stunned.
Yep.
It
I
can
did it.
make
I did it on Bard, and I was like, if I was on Dancer,
Yeah.
you'd all be so cooked right now.
Our ninja currently holds the record, but she's cheating because she has ninja move speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't actually considered, is it the easiest phase 1 we've seen? Because I approach it from the perspective of, is it the one that makes me like the saddest to do 1,000 times or whatever? But yeah, I guess it
Is it
So-
easier than Twin?
I'm not
And
sure.
back to
I really haven't thought
Swintania?
about it.
Twisters exist.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, but Twisters exist, but so does people just not observing the element of the boss.
True.
Also, there's like some delayed PvP with the Proteans. Like if you bait yours offset,
yeah.
like that becomes an issue for someone 180 degrees from the boss from you, like 3 seconds later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd certainly argue it's easier than top, It's probably easier than Thornton in DSR. Living Liquid is such a toss-up because, like, you know, Living Liquid is just goated as the phase one because it's the emergent gameplay phase one. You know, are we talking normal on prog where you see, what is it, Cascade 2, or like Doll Skip? You know, that kind of totally changes that entire phase. I think it is probably on par with Twin if I had to liken it to something.
Okay.
Yeah. Sly, were you, what phase, by the way, were you casting when you first came in for the first cocktail hour?
First cocktail hour, I want to say it was relativity, ultimate relativity.
Damn.
That went by so fast. That's so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the first night. Yeah. I mean, that's in line. We were on ultimate relativity before we went to bed. So that makes sense. Yeah. Jesus. God.
Yeah, everybody was trying to figure out the stoplights and everything, and I was in the Discord for the entire thing, like analysts and everything, and I was looking at like some of the analyst solutions. I'm like, huh. And looking back on replay, I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just seeing teams actually figure it out and seeing how it plays out. Yeah, very, very different from what, like slightly different from what analyst kind of hypothesized, I guess.
Yeah. I was just wondering how much you were following along on those early phases while, you know, before cocktail hour began. Like, how much of phase one prog did you see? How much of phase two prog did you see?
It was interesting because like the day of, I was streaming. So that day I was just streaming, but at the same time I had a window open. I had Echo's window open. So I was like streaming and doing shit at the same time, just like 1 hour right over here, just looking like, just there would be like a couple minutes of nothingness, me doing nothing because I'm just watching. Just yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Go ahead.
I remember we went to sleep with a APOC strat that first day. Now that I'm remembering, and yeah, APOC is like pretty deep into the fight.
Yeah, I remember I'd spent a ton of time leading up to Prague thinking about like how long should we be into the fight by the end of day one to like be making a good pace. The answer to that was not, oh, I expected to be 9 minutes and 50 seconds in. But I think that's what we were at the end of APOG because P3 rate is like 950.
Yeah, it's just I
crazy.
think 10 minutes and 5 seconds is when Gaia finishes Memory's End or something.
Yeah, and that leads me to a question I did have. Like, did you in your head have a kind of schedule in mind? Like, we should be here by so date and time?
I think the only thing on that line that I had in my head was I expected us to be somewhere in P2 at the end of day one, which we obviously blew out of the water as we were just talking about. But like that, just like following from how DSR and top win, which is the other two World Prog ults that I'd done before this one. That's where I was thinking basically.
I was thinking pretty similar, like either tail end of P2 or maybe start of P3, which wasn't really that far off. You know, we were end of P3 as opposed to start of P3, but that's also, that compounds with every other day of Prague to, you know, leapfrog you further and further ahead of where you would have expected to be. But it's fairly arbitrary to say that because, you know, we don't know how many phases there are to begin with and which phases are more difficult than other ones. So,
yeah, and another thing, because like chat was just like really hypothesizing about this. What were y'all thinking in terms of phases, in terms of phase numbers? Were y'all like, is there a hidden 6 phase or we
I have a bone to pick with fflogs.com.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
The ice phase needs to be its own phase. There's no way we're counting that as P2. A new boss actor shows up, a new HP bar shows up. You have to like, why is that not its own
the
phase?
music even changes.
I'll only agree because I still don't know why Omega's phase 4 is technically a phase with the beams. before
His new HP
Dynamite.
bar.
Yeah, but it's like
I'd call them intermissions. These like
Yeah.
really short one mechanic things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, because
fair.
there's
not
because
phase
then
two.
there's also eyes versus rewind versus
Yeah.
Thornton.
Yeah,
you know.
so it would be phase 1 Fatebreaker, phase 2 Shiva, intermission Ice, phase 3 Gaia.
Yeah.
Those are separate
Yeah.
sections, but it's not its own whole thing.
Intermission is
In my
very
eyes,
fair.
but
It definitely needs to be accounted for separately, though, in some way, whatever you
Yes,
call
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Like in all of our analyst work, we were calling it like a mini phase or like ads phase. But if it just rolling it straight into P2 like makes no sense.
Yeah, certainly from an organizational perspective, we can answer this very definitively because our workspace treats it as a separate phase. So for us, in the way all of our diagrams and resources and everything is labeled, there are 6 phases, and the ads phase is phase 3.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, if you include that, then you get the 6. I know most people are not. They're considering this to be a 5-phase fight, which okay, it's up for debate depending on how you want to read it. But this is about as many as I expected. I thought maybe there could be like a not spoiled 6th boss, but I still thought it was going to be very different. I thought it was going to be like Fatebreaker into Shiva, into like Eden's Promise, into Gaia, into a combo phase, into Pandora. Like the fact that Promise never shows up was probably the strangest thing for me.
well, it sort of shows up.
Technically,
No, the Guardian of Eden
It
shows up.
doesn't count.
Yeah.
Wait, listen,
I'm
this is
still-
not what they meant when they
It's-
said make the tree. All right.
True.
Yeah, it felt very strange. To me, I get why people say it's really weird that Promise doesn't show up, and I agree. To me, it was weirder that Voidwalker didn't, because it's the start of Gaia's story.
So about that, because Pandora's swords are both of Voidwalker's swords.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, it's the Eden. She's dual wielding 2 Voidwalker swords, which is the Eden's Gate
Okay.
Dark Knight weapon.
Interesting.
Skippers stay.
I am still eternally sad that Eden Prime does not make an appearance.
Yeah.
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 They're just leaving it for the second Eden Ultimate. That's fine.
Oh, sure, you're right. You're right.
Future's
you're right.
rewritten
Stop it.
again.
Yeah, when that'll be when we fight the primals for the 12th time.
Yeah.
True.
I wonder if that played a role. If they were just like, listen, we can't.
Oh,
make them
absolutely.
we can't make them do Titan.
We
and
already had a
Gordon.
primals ultimate.
Yeah.
I would have done it happily.
I mean, same, but that's because Titan E4 is my favorite fight in the entire game. So
I
good.
crave Titan Tuesday.
I know.
Titan Tuesday. Yeah.
But yeah, on the on the,
Y'all
on the
didn't wanna
point
do-
of
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
on the point of did we expect another phase or not? We were having a side conversation with the analysts while they were kind of progging the final phase, and we were like looking at the timeline, and we were like, time wise, like this has got to be the final phase. Like, you know, we're like 16 and a half minutes in our prog point or whatever. Like there can't be another phase. But we were also just like, is this it? Like it's just, you know, Fatebreaker, a bunch of Gaia and Rin, and then that's it. Right? Like there was nothing else. And you know, I get the story, but it was a little bit disappointing to see nothing else from Eden.
and there was also the funky
Like, did you-
cutscene.
Go. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
There was also the funky cutscene. If you fail the final enrage, there's
Yeah.
like an extra little bit where you can like move
Yeah.
the camera around, and we were like, wait, they're like, we thought there was a puzzle on the final enrage.
Yeah.
There is a secret thing.
That was such a bait. We got baited so hard.
Good bit.
We were very divided on that. Some of us got kind of baited. Others were like, "Nah, DPS check. We're not
we
reflating
all-
the blue screen."
No, we all agreed that like we at the very least we're gonna try getting her to 0 first.
Yeah.
But
Because it was killable,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we knew it was killable. No question.
But yeah,
So
overall, I think this like 5.5, 6 phase is like within the realm of what I'd expect. Like I wouldn't be surprised on 7 phases. Four would be too little, definitely.
Yeah, the closest
No.
you get to 4, the closest you get to 4 Sly is Uwu, and that's excluding the LB check, basically.
See now, like
And
I'm thinking of
Uwu's final phase is also very long.
Yeah,
so
it's
that
6.
makes
Yeah,
up for
yeah,
it.
T and Uwu both have 6-minute final phases, so they're very different.
See, now I'm trying to think of like
He
a
also is only 4.
Eden Primal Ultimate, where like what could they include?
Oh my
Like
god.
what would
Sly.
be what
We'll
would
be
be
here all day.
extra? No, what would be the extra? Like because we already have everything. And like Black Smoker's Ultimate would just be fucking cursed as shit. I can already see it.
That'd be
But
goated, dude.
no, oh god, please no.
Yeah, dude.
Please, fuck
Sly,
no.
you're just thinking about the PF. You can't let the PF define whether it would be. That's like everyone who is
No.
like that's when people say like, oh, EAS was a terrible fight, and I go, why? I was like doing light rampant in the party fight. It's like that's not why the fight's bad. That's why your experience is bad.
Shout out Ilya, my boy.
Ilya, Light Rampant, yeah.
What
yeah.
Ilya did week 1 was still better than what my group did. You know what my group did week 1? We had the east and west orbs
What?
running small circles around the orb to keep it in place.
Hell yeah.
That's what we did. So we did a part of our prog prep this time. We did a bunch of like challenge hell mode run
Yeah, we
kind
did
of
the
stuff.
same thing. Yeah.
And what based on some of the restrictions we had, our LR strat involved people running in circles around their orb. It was good.
It's certainly something.
We also did Black Smokers, except everyone's on the same. Everyone's on the left half of the room, and the melees are in front, and the ranged are in the back half, and you have to solve it like that.
Oh, stop. No.
That wasn't so bad.
Yeah, that's not that bad. None of it's as bad as it sounds, Sly. Trust me. It's there's a lot. It's pretty elegant solutions. The Shiva helmet, there's a ton of elegant solutions for that. Almost don't make it feel no different than just doing it normally.
That's why we added a few extra complications
Yeah.
of our own.
Yeah,
I think we added one extra condition on top of the hell mode. So the restrictions for light rampant, I believe, were orb players cannot take orbs, and orb players also cannot be in the last tower, I think.
Yeah, that was it.
And that was actually a pretty heavy set of restrictions to work around, and it really did force you to get pretty creative with the strategy designing process. But that's the whole point. So it worked pretty well as prog prep.
yeah.
The whole intent was having us reframe the existing mechanics that we already knew, so that we like learned the pieces better, which then let us slot them into the ultimate.
Only for light rampant to be one of the easiest
Yeah.
mechanics running the face.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's pretty disappointing.
Well,
And you
okay.
just go
It's
I'll-
fine. No,
I'll
it's
ask you
fine.
this.
We get to draw the
Okay.
hexagon.
Yeah, I'll
That's
ask
fair.
you this. Did you guys figure out the origami strat, or did you just do a counter?
Our analysts did.
Okay.
Yeah. I drew that on a pad, like with a Sharpie. I drew that on like a legal pad, and I like drew arrows, and I was like, okay, this is fucking easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because originally we had a clip, I think, of probably Echo somehow forming that star, and we were like, okay, how the hell do we make this shape? And they're like, whatever, we'll figure it out, and we pulled. And then eventually the analysts just figured out you swap these two players and these two players, and you get a star.
Yeah.
Yep.
The
And it was
original,
A
the
plants,
original,
and then we draw the hexagon.
yeah. The original, it was I think Lucrezia who was trying stuff first, and their original shape was like this completely asymmetric shape.
It was just the star rotated.
Yeah, it was 30 degrees rotated.
Oh, okay.
It just looked
yeah.
funny if you were north-south oriented.
Because well, no, it's also the proportions are not symmetrical, so it looks super fucking jank, and it like blows your brain. And then they figured out I think the easy shape around the same time that we did.
Yeah. That's one of those mechanics where your first solution is like maybe not that super easy, but then like sometimes you make a mechanic, the more elements there are to a mechanic, the easier they become to solve.
Yep.
And
That
light
was
rampant
also-
tethering 6 people only gives you so many ways that things can be done.
Yeah, that was also the first point we can talk about a little bit, where Scholar became like a huge boon.
Oh my god.
Because after we cleared, I joined a friends group that had a tank drop out and helped them out, and they were Astro Sage, and it was like really hard for them to heal light rampant for some reason. But Scholar can just have the fairy in the middle and it's free, or deploy and it's free.
And experience is a premium always.
Yeah, expedience was we abused expedience in this prog. I won't
Yeah.
lie.
Crystalline
What
time, did you
would-
do half experience, half sprint?
Yep.
Yeah,
We did, yeah.
Saw that one coming.
Yeah.
A classico.
Or if you're
Yeah.
Cali and you just elusive jump, but that's fine.
True.
cheater
What,
behavior.
would White Mage Lily build it?
White Mage is
Lily Bell would be
I
pretty
would-
good there, yeah.
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 I like the thinking. I would never allow white mage player. I'm sorry.
I would literally
In
sooner
hindsight-
Oh my
strike.
god!
In hindsight, White Mage would be fine on this fight, but yes, in Prague, it is griefing.
Yeah,
Actively.
in Prague, in PF, I don't care, but like in Prague, banned.
Yeah. No, I don't blame. I've literally the day after I won, we actually spent about 20 minutes like, okay, let's fix White Mage real quick. Benediction, AoE, 2-minute cooldown, Divine Caress is a follow-up to Benediction instead of where it is now. Like we were just doing a bunch of stuff. We'll
Yeah,
fix
there's
it.
just no real benefit to
Sure.
playing White Mage in Prague right now. Like,
The scoot.
not even one. The scoot, yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
The only benefit White Mage has over an Astro is throughput, which
Yeah.
if they ask for it in an ult, they ask for it once, maybe twice. Whereas
Yeah.
Astro is useful 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You saw a little bit of
Macrocosmos
like
is, cheating. I'll tell you that.
So what you're saying is White Mage is a challenge mode then?
Sure.
Exactly.
one way to put it.
If you really want a
Exactly.
challenge mode, do -1 Picto and
Yeah, no
everything's better in
Picto.
the fight.
Yeah.
Nope. No, you have to bring Viper and Machinist, no
Stop.
Picto, and it's White Mage Sage.
Viper, Machinist, Summoner, I guess Gunbreaker.
Summoner Red Mage.
Black Mage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was because. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, we're like, well, what would be the ultimate cursed party for this?
Gunbreaker Viper alone, we learned last night, is not the most desirable.
Gunbreaker's
feeling.
fine.
It would
It does a little
probably
less
be.
damage, but it's fine.
It doesn't feel great. The Viper feels awful though. Like
That's true.
our Viper was like, I'll get a clear on this at Viper at some point. That's not now. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, I didn't even bring it into reclares when I have the Viper weapon. If that tells you anything, like it's. not great.
We attempted reclears last night. We did not succeed, but we were
Did
having
we?
a very good time with it.
Did we attempt them? Does that count as attempting them even last night? I don't know if that really
yeah, for
counts.
the
What
first,
was
like,
what was the point? What was the prog point? I mean, well, prog point. What was the percentage?
we saw crystallized time once.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No, but for
Yeah,
clarity, we were like goofing off. Like at
okay,
no point were we
okay.
seriously attempting like, hey, let's get this done. But the point is that our Perry brought Black Mage for the first like 40 minutes, and then he was like, "This is griefing. I'm going back to Picto."
Maybe they'll make like Umbral Soul. If you're in Umbral Soul for 15 seconds, your next Xenoglossy is double potency when it comes back. I don't know.
No, they're just going to give you a third charge of ley lines.
Yeah, but they'll also nerf Enochian by 1%. Please look
that's
forward to
right.
it.
For every ley line, you got to take away 1% of Enochian. No, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yoshi P giveth and Yoshi P taketh awayeth.
Now I'm thinking of all the cursed runs you could do. Jesus fucking Christ.
The thing is, the cursed runs just make it feel like top.
Yeah,
I guess.
Exactly.
You find
Real
out actually
DPS checks.
Yeah, the DPS checks actually make a lot of sense the moment you remove the one job that they refuse to like look at. Like
we were talking about this afterwards, and like legitimately, some of those phases felt like they could have had the threshold be like 10% or even 0 rather than 20. But then, you literally like you swap the Picto out, and now it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I put out a video about Picto just before this, like, because I spent like 3 hours talking about it. I was like, listen, they were like, oh, in uptime, it's like kind of close to everything. Now it's fine. And then as soon as downtime hits,
Yeah.
I'll just gain like 4,000 potency without a boss being here. That's fine, I guess, right?
I gain a gray hair every time I think about Yoshi P's reasoning for not nerfing it. That man said that he was worried that people wouldn't have fun if they lowered the number, as if the fun comes from the number and not how you make the number happen. I'm losing
But
it.
I
mean
have
you
to
don't
do
like
8%
hammer
more
comboing
than my
for
friend.
500,000 damage?
A hammer combo is fun whether it's a big number or not.
But man, but 500,000 is a much more fun number.
Yeah,
Obviously.
number go burn.
you're
That's all
right,
people see
but-
is just number go
And
burn.
it's more accurately
Number,
like people will
yeah.
just hear the community say, "Hey, this job got nerfed," and then they'll get sad without actually thinking about it.
Yeah. That reminds me of like when Samurai got like a number change at some point and everyone thought it was a huge nerf and then they realized they had no reading comprehension and it was like a 10%
Yeah,
buff or
it was
something.
actually a buff. Yeah,
That was so
they
funny.
gave it the auto crits, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
God. that was something. Yeah. And I think it's actually fair to talk about Picto coming into before going into phase 3, because it's really phases 1 and 2 and all the phase transitions where Pictomancer becomes a problem. It just does downtime better than every other job. I feel
like you notice it the most in the ads phase also.
Yeah.
Because just like you just watch the white crystals die slower and you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
Oh, no Picto.
And the problem with Ultimate, especially, is that even on the phases where Pictomancer isn't broken in a vacuum, Ultimate's, DPS checks and deaths and damage downs all have a cascading effect, and they make the rest of the fight more difficult because they make you shift your resources around. So even though Picto might not be busted in phase 5, for example, the fact that it lets you fix mistakes that anyone makes on any other part of the fight makes it broken on the fight as a whole. And you really, really see that with, somebody dies on P1, the Picto makes up for it. If you got weakness going into ads, the Picto makes up for it.
And then if they don't, the phase disappears, and you're like, we probably don't need to LB3 this anymore in a matter of like 1 or 2 pulls.
Yeah, so it just snowballs very, very quickly and very aggressively.
Yeah, I think on average we had like most of the phases at like 12% when they're the 20% checks. With
and
all
that was with
we
people
had
like
cracked
holding.
comp. Yeah, that's what people holding too. That's like, all right, everyone hold your resources. Boss is at 12%. It's like
We were holding in phase 1 so that things would line up better later on.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like we need the damage thing. It was just purely like if we don't, then it feels awful during the mechanic later.
Did you see what PF was trying to do in phase 1?
No.
God.
There seems to be a push to skip the knockback towers.
Oh, I mean, we're doing that too now.
Yeah, but like they're doing it like deliberately in PF prog, and I'm like, you sure you don't want those 2s to be like better in PF? Like,
Yeah,
Are they getting filtered by counting the 3 towers on the inside the map?
but not that. Well, the tethers have
fucking
AM, so the brain's off at that point, so they need to skip the next part.
No.
Yeah, misaligning the 2s is certainly fine if you know what you're doing and you've already cleared, but in prog it's a liability. There's zero incentive to actually do that.
Again, we're talking about PF shit. Don't pay any attention to it. Just fuck it.
Well, that's why I can happily call it a liability and move on with my day, because it's not my problem, right?
Yep.
Listen, they skipped.
That's why I don't do
towers.
PF.
Yeah, not anymore. You don't. You had your time. You had your Waffle House PF raids.
Oh man, don't talk about the Waffle House.
For those who are unaware, Waffle House has 3 a.m. PF clears.
No. Yeah. Like I'd say like 11 to about 3.
Yeah.
And 11 to 3 a.m. It's just awful. It's just fucking awful.
Now you need to do 11 to 3 on a Monday before on a Sunday going into a Monday.
Fuck. Okay. See, like I'm glad I'm drinking.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, you want to dive an aneurysm? Do that.
Have you guys ever done the re-clear all 4 fights in PF right before reset and then immediately after reset?
No, I'm asleep.
No.
I've done it. It was an interesting experience.
Does the experience just instantly get better the moment the weekly reset happens? Like you just rejoin the groups, like, holy shit, this is way different.
Oh, yep.
It's instantly the filter's off for like a day, and everyone who wants to get it done is playing again. That's what we call having a really bad experience and then having therapy right afterwards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the time I did that, I one-shot all 4 fights after re-clears. I was like, this is what Final Fantasy is supposed to be like.
exists for fucking you.
Well, if you do it right, the moment re-clears happens and you get lucky, you can get a good group to just do all 4 together.
Yeah.
Nah, see, no, you don't get the Waffle House PF, which is what we're talking about. Like the Waffle House PF. I gotta explain the Waffle House PF. The Waffle House PF is like, okay. A reason I call it the Waffle House is because after a night out on the town, whether you go to a club or a bar, you're drunk, you're hungry. Where the fuck you gonna go? Waffle House. It's open. Like legs, after 2 a.m. Like you just, it's open. So that's the only thing you're gonna go get. So what do you get at Waffle House? A bunch of fucking drunk shits. And yeah, like PF at that point is like everybody's drunk until the last pull. Okay, let's take this last pull seriously. I'm like, are you fucking serious?
So it's the Denny's Party Finder, the 3 a.m. Denny's Party Finder.
Yeah, the Grand Slam.
It's the content producing hours.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Trust me,
I
all
wish
of them are
I wish I was
content-producing
recording.
hours.
I wish I was recording for half the fucking Waffle House parties I had. Oh, okay. We'll take it seriously now. And they didn't.
I've been delivered one too many Kendrick Lamar bombs at this point. Mustard bombs, Sly. In case you're not.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the Kendrick Lamar
Boo.
bombs.
Boo.
How is FRUPF?
Apparently pretty good.
Okay.
Huh?
I have heard that it's decent, but observing some of the strats they have chosen, I do not wish to partake.
Oh, let me guess. Diamond Dust?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, what do they do for Diamond Dust?
So for
True North clock spots.
Yeah,
You're
and
joking.
that includes the people that have to be. So there's 2 people that are always in the first ice that's coming down, and they just have to be really quick to get out of the ice before it falls. After
That's
doing
so
the dance.
awful.
It's a
That's
real.
Anyone heard of
God.
using their eyes to observe the AoEs on the ground?
No, they don't have
You're
the
talking about
observer.
PF. You are talking about PF.
They're lacking the observer.
Bro, we have
Can't do it.
progressed. In E8S, it was boss relative, or I guess AoE relative. In FRU, it's True North.
That's true. We actually did it in a
I'm
worse way than the
so mad.
original mechanic. That's pretty pathetic.
We've gone backwards.
Yeah, I don't see the way even we did it where it's like the inner pattern and the outer pattern are technically different. Like it's like a cross on the inner for the cone baits.
Yep, we did too.
But like you could do just like the outwards for like both
Absolutely.
patterns technically, and that just makes a whole like I don't know how PF didn't latch onto that. Like it's always east-west relative cones, and then you have the 2 dudes like stack and then split like this.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how that. I
That's
thought I was like,
very
oh, that's
reasonable.
what they'll do for PF for sure. I went to a stream last night and I saw someone standing in the first ice, and I'm like, why?
Yeah. PF will always disappoint
I
you.
love standing in the bed for no reason.
Why?
Oh, and then the other PF special is not getting to phase 2 because you failed the damage check. That's apparently.
Oh yeah. Naturally.
Yeah,
And then
concerning,
locking
but-
out Picto from the party, or I'm sorry, locking out all casters but Picto from the party.
Yeah, that's yeah. There's been Picto mandatory in almost every. I'm sure. In fact, I'm logged into Dynamis right now. No, I'm gonna fucking find a PF in Dynamis. We'll see. Not one that's not private at least. Let's see.
Shout out Golem.
Yeah, that's where I am right now. Yeah, there's a Sky Deep Cenote. There's a Drowned City of Scala.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
There's a Kugane Ohashi, and there's an Eden's Promise Eternity Savage.
I love going in the Dynamis.
Yeah.
You unlock single player mode.
There's 7
I
private
literally-
PFs.
I'm on Ether right now. The first 3 PFs I clicked on all either had a Picto or the spot was locked to Picto.
Yeah.
Who could have predicted this? You know,
Nobody.
surely.
Also, like, because of this, they basically locked themselves into the fact that they have to, like, I don't know if they're going to nerf Picto, but I feel like now they like have to buff the other casters.
Yeah.
At this
Please.
point. Like it's
They need it.
Summoner
But at that
needs
point-
it the most, really, because for
No, Summoner can stay in the gutter. That's fine.
Damn.
Shots fired.
Yeah, the time to nerf Pictomancer was before FRU came out. Now that people have cleared with Picto, your easiest solution, which is just nerf the one job that's overpowered, now has a very, very valid argument against it, which is, well, now you're going to make every future ultimate clear harder. So, like, the window has come and gone. Now they're in an even bigger mess. But that's what happens when you ignore critical balance issues for a year, is they compound on themselves.
Yeah.
would you say their futures
So-
would be rewritten?
Yeah, I would say that.
Boo!
that bit.
Boo this man. No, don't co-sign on this shit. Boo this man. Boo this man.
Yeah.
You see what I have to fucking deal with every show?
Yeah. Well, that's why you've got
Every
the alcohol.
fucking show. Yeah. Like, that's not even all. Like the rest of the bourbon's in the other room. Like I just brought one bottle.
He actually leaves alcohol in the other room, so he has an excuse to get up and leave in the middle of the show to then go get it.
Yep.
That's good. That's preparedness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a big thing is like, because again, Picto relative to everything else in Uptime, I think is still too strong, but at least it's not that crazy different. I think it's literally just, I've been saying, does anyone here play or has played League of Legends?
I would never.
I'm reformed.
Reformed? Okay, well, that means you at least have a basic knowledge. It's like whoever designed Aphelios designed Pictomancer.
200
give him everything and make him giga buffed.
Yeah. Like, I mean, look at how long Starry Sky, look at how long the fucking text is on that. Like, that's a pendulum card from Yu-Gi-Oh!
I get your point, but I would kill for someone in SC to design like Aphelios, because then at least things would be fun, right?
If everything was, yeah. If everything was like Aphelios, but it's
I do think Picto is very fun to play, which is a good point for it.
Do scholars.
So the question would be, if there is another ultimate, what would be the solution between now and then that would appease both FRU and the oncoming ultimate?
I mean, it's just like, honestly, like take a little bit of utility away from Picto, like remove the heal on Star Prism or something. Like drop its numbers a tad and then also buff the other casters.
I think it's not just the I think fundamentally you need to address downtime problems that like Viper's downtime problems. It's bad.
I agree, but I don't want them to just do the same thing for every job.
Right.
Like, we don't need meditate on Viper because it's just meditate. Like, they need something to help deal with downtime, sure, but
Viper's downtime problems.
Your buffs. I don't know.
Viper's downtime problems are honestly fine as a weakness. I know, contrary to popular belief, like people don't think jobs should be bad in certain situations.
Yeah.
That's totally fine, and embracing jobs having weaknesses in certain content types is very much healthy. The problem is that it doesn't do anything well to make up for that right now. Like, it's not good in full uptime situations, and it's just even worse in the downtime. But Samurai historically has always been quite poor in downtime, but that's never really been an actual problem because it's amazing and savage, and it's still certainly workable in downtime. That just doesn't play to its strengths.
And Dragoon?
Dragoon's blasting this fight out of oblivion, Sly.
You Dragoon is goddamn right it is. I just want to hear you say it.
Dragoon has always been the other end of the spectrum where the fight scales, or where the class scales quite well with downtime. Historically, it's had a bit more nuance than that because it was dependent on getting your Mirage dives, when the class actually had like a gameplay mechanic behind it. Now it doesn't, so it's just kind of good, and that's it. Period.
It's just good. Period.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah. But I guess it is kind of the other end of the spectrum from Viper in that sense.
I think the tanks are actually a really good example of this right now, because you have like some jobs like Dark Knight that can hold gauge really well and like flex around the downtime depending on where you need the damage. And then a job like Paladin, which can't really do that. And the most it can do is like set up its GCDs to be as good as possible right at the start of the next uptime. But it's still fine. Like, it's not griefing around the downtime stuff like Viper is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fine.
Yeah,
but Dark Knight is better at it, and Gunbreaker's Gunbreaker, but
yeah, Gunbreaker obviously runs into a cartridge problem. But Double
Down's
so
now with single down.
Yeah.
It's Gunbreaker's fine as it is now. It's just going to deal a little less damage than it could have.
And Haps, what were you going to say about your melee?
I was going to say our melee said Viper. It's like if the gauge went, he's like, if I didn't have gauge going into the next phase, that's fine. But my fucking buffs fall down 2 seconds before the boss comes back.
All these downtimes are conveniently 30 seconds long.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's pretty brutal. And then you have really cool stuff like Monk with like perfect balance, like managing during, like, if you have really big downtime phases, you have to factor in where they are relative to your perfect balance timing, and you can set up a phantom rush for when you come back, for example. So there's really fun
Yeah.
stuff to do there.
I'd be careful using the word cool and monk in the same sentence. Square Enix may be listening, and they may remove that.
Yeah, they might take that as a threat.
Yeah, they're like, ooh, monk, fun? Ooh, don't know about that one.
It's all right.
Meanwhile, the monthly Dragoon buff goes up. We don't ask for it.
Listen, you're
don't ask
not
for it.
wrong, and like this whole one Nastron thing made the job even better in FRU. But I implore you that nobody who plays the job would rather have it do more damage than to have it actually have a gameplay element behind it. Please, it needs the eyes back. It needs to do something that isn't just hit every button off cooldown. I will gladly trade a couple percent in damage for it to be an actual respectable class.
Fun.
Dawntrail.
Yeah, where we actually get to press buttons. Yeah, that'd be great.
I want to know the reasoning behind the single Nastron. Like, why? Who thought this was a good idea and why? Because I think they're wrong.
People who missed their Nastron who missed their Nastrons during the window.
Skill issue.
They do. And I'm saying this shit. Like, this is me. This is me. And I'm not the best Dragoon, but goddamn, I know how to hit buttons.
It's because Dawntrail's the vacation expansion, and now you are taking a vacation from gameplay.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
My fingers are taking a vacation
Oh
from
my
the
god.
keyboard.
No, I play on controller.
If you really want a vacation,
why are you missing shit?
If you really want a vacation, just main Summoner and then refuse to play Pictomancer, and you'll have to play a different game.
Yeah, well, that's pretty apt because some people do really want that vacation, and that's okay. Like, I think that's valid. So go play Summoner and don't lobotomize every other job to also be Summoner.
Exactly. I want to press buttons. Now I could probably go play Balatro in the middle of my burst.
Yeah.
When I was on healer, I would actively respond to on-call incidents at work while healing because they have so little going on that you can just like weave in Slack messages and work.
That's Slack
Dawntrail.
weave.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, yeah, Picto is it's a problem.
At least
Yeah.
as a tank, I have to move the boss once in phase 2. Very happy about
It's
this.
true.
True. Right.
In the middle of the worst phase comes the glimmer of hope. And then it's time to do Light Rampant.
Yeah.
Please look forward to it.
Light Rampant, oh my god, dude. I cannot believe they did that. They don't realize that the fun of Light Rampant was stored in the balls. Like the boss being targetable with the balls that would like slowly walk at you, like it made the mechanic the way it was. And then they like just got rid of those two things, and they're just like, I don't know, man, make a star, the fucking Yu-Gi-Oh card or whatever, dude. Like
They castrated the mechanic.
they literally vasectomied the tether.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
This is the best show ever.
Yeah, they turned it.
No, they moved the balls to be floating over your head.
Light Rampant. Now
Please stop, please.
Light
Please
Rampant
stop,
now
please.
it's 0 torsion.
Yeah.
I do
I mean,
apologize.
yeah,
I do have a certain way of saying things. So if you ever need me to tone it down, just let me know.
No, please, no. No fucking filter, please. God, no.
Yeah, Sly, he knew what he was doing. Don't let him gaslight you.
Oh my god.
But yeah, they
It was so
really
good.
did like remove like every single aspect of Light Rampant except for the chains.
It's
Like,
it's even downtime now.
It's a downtime mechanic.
And
It
she
doesn't have
stays
balls.
downtime for way too long. Like we're there stacking, spreading, everyone's in melee range of the boss, and she's not targetable for another 6 seconds.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But she's targetable for House of Light. That's the important thing.
No, it's true.
Oh,
but
Yeah, you got to do your Proteans.
it didn't need to be its own cast bar, but whatever.
Please,
Hey,
Yoshi.
and House of Light now double targets people. That's new.
True.
Is that new? I didn't remember that.
Yeah, in the original, if you
Yeah.
have 4 stacks, you would just jump off to avoid House of Light instead of blowing up. Yeah.
You can still time it now. It's just like a tighter window, apparently.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to like die as you gain your Protean in your
Got it.
spot.
Yeah. bait it.
Which, by the way, it's funny that I'm jumping ahead a little bit. That the tank LB3 check, you can technically res cheese through.
Yeah.
You can res cheese through. You can also mit through it. I saw someone was like planning to use tank LB2 and just every single other mit possible, and it is livable.
Yeah, because it's not an LB check. It's just a really high damage number.
Well,
Which it is higher than tank LB3. I found this out the other day. We died with tank LB3 and faint.
The big thing normally about tank LB mechanics that just didn't happen this time is normally when you use tank LB on a quote-unquote tank LB mechanic, it changes the AoE from darkness damage to like magic damage or something. But it just doesn't happen now, and so you just get to live if you just mit.
Yep.
It's good. It's Dawn Trail.
Hey, you know what though? At least there weren't flare markers that you could stack on the group this time.
True.
It was more egregious. I would have taken that instead.
The stack and spread in mirrors? That shit you can solo trivially.
Yeah.
Like you need a little bit of shields and like 110%, nobody dies. You can just spread all the time. You don't have to stack.
And the Akmorans in dual phase as well can be soloed by a tank with like 1 mitigation.
Yeah.
Yep. There's also you can 30% mit the hollowed wings and just not go into the wall. Yeah. There's that too. So there's a lot of
you can Black Halo didn't deal enough damage to make you actually 2-stack it.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a decent bit of that. There's a decent bit of that sprinkled throughout.
Also, they changed Somber Dance. The same tank.
Yeah, the same tank can do them both. Yeah.
Yeah, we found that out on accident and just ended up using it to our advantage. I don't know why they would change that. That's such a weird thing to do.
Well, so you can tank invuln it, obviously.
Yeah, it's great. I love not having to do the one thing that happens in Darklit.
What do you mean? You're checking the stats, right?
That mechanic is so funny. It's just do Savage Light Rampant and then spread and then stack, and now you're done.
Dude, I would have been like appeased if they had at least colored the chains like purple or something because it's darklit. Like, put some fucking effort into it, man. Come on.
At least it was 2-target phase. I will give them that. That was maybe the single most leap forward is they didn't firewall the bosses.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You know what the issue I have with this that is like recurring after DSR because of the exact same way in DSR, they keep putting the 2-target phases as the phases with 0 DPS check, and that's certainly by necessity because the game isn't balanced for 2-target, but it is really lame because it feels like nothing you do matters. Like yes, Dragoon absolutely pumps, but it's of almost zero consequence.
Yeah, they have to balance it so that if you bring no classes with good cleave, then you can still win, which is it's bad. It's fun, but I wish it was better.
And then Hracefelger is like, "Hey guys, I heard we're having another ultimate." Everyone's like, "You don't have a Solemn Vow yet, do you?"
Thankfully, no.
Imagine if Solemn Vow showed up. That'd be so. Hallowed Wings kills someone. Hracefelger flies into a rage.
Speaking of disappointing mechanics, APOC is the definition of adding more conditions makes it easier, right? Like APOC, you basically could not do the wrong thing. You just spread in the safe spot, and then you went to the middle. And it was a big step down, I would say, from the APOCs in Savage, where you had a lot of space to spread. You had to figure out exactly where to go. Whereas Ultimate, it was so conditioned. There was so much going on. There was only one thing to do, which was spread in the safe spots and go to the middle.
It could have been a harder mechanic if it was 4 APOCs going in a crazy pattern rather than the 6 in the pattern that it.
Yeah.
They made the circles smaller.
They did.
The circles are the same. The arena's bigger.
Oh, okay.
The arena's bigger. Okay.
Yeah, because normally you can't be on the line is the cutoff. If you're on the other side of the line, yeah.
Yeah, here you can thread the needle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the triple APOC is almost harder than the Ultimate Apocalypse. I think the almost coming from it asks for some positioning precision and making you sprint and move at the right time to not get clipped and stuff. But
Yeah.
Like if you're the second melee in that safe spot, you have to like be on top of timing the snapshots.
Yeah, but then for us, it was like when we were watching from the analyst POV and watching the other teams, like if a team spread and then got to their stack successfully, we just like assumed that they were going to get to the next phase.
Yeah, that's fair. Unless somebody forgets like what
Yeah, of
side
course.
they're on. Yeah.
Yeah, like mistakes like that happen. But like generally speaking, like we were right.
Yeah. And ultimate relativity, I call that mechanic hello girl. Because it's effectively the same thing as hello. It's just like a set of conditions. You just do them in the same order based on what you get. And as long as you repeat that movement, you don't care about the 7 other people, then you're good.
Ultimate relativity is fine, but it's not fine in the context that it's sandwiched by light rampant and APOC. Right? Like when it's basically the dive from grace equivalent, which is all right because that mechanic wasn't a huge wall either, but I feel as though I was expecting something more difficult to either immediately proceed or follow it, and there just kind of wasn't.
It's funny that you mentioned dive from grace not really being a problem. I remember watching a lot of streams where dive from grace was definitely a problem for a lot of.
I mean, not a problem as in the sense
yeah.
that it was like some, like Death of the Heavens or Wrath Flames level thing.
Yeah.
I mean, mainly its placement in the fight is what makes it approachable, right? You put Die from Grace 12 minutes in, yeah, and it's a problem, right? Like, oh boy.
In other words, in the next ultimate, dive from grace will be 12 minutes in.
Then everyone sims it, and it's no longer 12 minutes in.
No, then it is. But yeah, they sim it just enough to forget after 11 minutes of doing the actual fight, though.
True.
Like, all right, here it comes. All of our practice is gonna pay, and we're dead. Do we need to go back
Yeah,
to it?
everyone forgot.
They could practice with my dive from Grace Strat.
Oh no.
There's a story
Good.
behind that.
It's good. No, it's good.
No,
Don't
it's
worry.
a TLDR. It's a genuinely alternate, like doesn't look the same dive from Grace Strat, and it's fun to do because it's
I
different.
made it as a
Okay.
joke, and it ended up being fun.
Okay.
Some of the best things in life that are fun are jokes. So that makes sense. Yeah.
Like Final Fantasy.
Then you have phase 4, which we already talked about a bunch. I mean, I think Crystalline Time, most people agree, is kind of the highlight of the fight,
Absolutely.
prog-wise.
That was so fun
the
to
wormhole.
diagram and solve.
Mm.
And it seemed like it was pretty interesting to prog for the first time as the Raiders. There's definitely a lot to keep in your mind and practice.
My only
It
question
is a little.
All right.
As you say, it's one of those mechanics that it's like if you get it really quickly, you're just waiting for other people to like
Yeah.
to also get it then, which is that's gonna happen anyway.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a good one.
Yeah. My only question is, are you a short arrow or a long arrow enjoyer?
What do we mean by this?
So the debate is popping the dragon
no.
heads immediately as the arrow as soon as
Oh
they
yeah,
hit the
immediately is way better.
set. Yeah.
Short.
Yeah, popping light's a trap.
I agree.
You're if you screw up popping, if you are planning to pop early and mess up, you're at most killing the other arrow player. If you are planning to pop late and mess up, you're killing everyone.
Yep.
And then also, if you are popping late, you're trying to catch up to the slow-moving head projectile, which in this game is literally impossible.
Definitely don't want to do that.
It is way more error-prone to pop late.
If you're having issues with early pop, if you try hard, you can do the mechanic with your eyes open, and you can see the giant yellow circle that goes off on one of the heads that lets you know you can walk forward.
It's true.
You
Really
can
helps.
do the mechanic with your eyes
Uh-huh.
open.
As opposed to whatever Party Finder's doing.
No.
Trying to get past phase 1 most of the time, but
We're assuming that Party Finder is this far anyway.
We call this, we have a term for this. It's called monitor on gaming. MOG for short.
mogging. They're mogging
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, we're mogging the mechanic.
Yeah.
Let's go, boys.
Then the back half of the mechanic being like just dodge Lamau is
Yeah.
really good actually, especially since because of the rewind spots and the cleanses, like it forces you to be proactive. You can't hesitate. It's really it's just a well-designed mechanic, I think.
Yeah. Only problem is those magic vaults from Hallowed Wings should absolutely fuck your shit, and they don't.
Yeah.
It's my only issue with it.
So you're saying it's a little too forgiving?
It should be, there should be absolutely nothing you can do whatsoever to prevent deaths due to wrongly placed rewinds. It should just kill you through any amount of mitigation. It should kill you through a tank LB. And 10% is a laughable price to pay for essentially ignoring that aspect of the mechanic.
Yeah, because you're like so deep in a poll, saving that is so valuable and it's so easy.
Yeah, and this kind of
in our clear.
Yeah.
I hit tank mid and lived when like I would have died otherwise.
Yeah, that sounds. I mean, our clear had our Dragoon was killed by our Paladin being late, and then the Dragoon died again because he instantly stepped into the Akmorn, which, by the way, does go through to Resin Vault. As we
Yes, it
And
goes through
Involve.
everything.
Yeah. Goes through everything.
it needs to have you know what it doesn't have it needs to have faithlessness. Because I'm a little bit sick of this trend where the tanks are soloing the Akmorns. Kind of, if we could learn our lesson here, Square Enix, that would be a little bit appreciated.
It's so
Yeah.
funny. 'cause
Big
they-
611 enjoyers, I guess.
Yeah.
They came up with faithlessness in T. Like it's been here for a hot moment of like you can't sack this, do the thing, or at least
They
lose one
have-
extra person.
The mechanics are already in this fight. Like there's a bunch of stacks that if there's not enough people in it, you get the giga damage down. But
You know?
Or it explodes on everyone. Like if the fire goes into the wall in phase 1,
Yeah.
it blows up on everybody. So you can't just be like, well, fuck that guy in particular. You care. Yeah, there's a lot of them having a pretty good concept here with the 90% damage downs and like how you treat stacks. Like even in what is it called? Even in Ultimate Relativity, like if anyone more than the people who have to be out aren't in the middle, everyone's getting a damage down. Like they're at the very least trying to hard force the amount of people that need to stack for certain stacks. Water is always 4, et cetera, et cetera. Still ways around it, like going into the wall before the rewind if you screwed up as anything but a gaze should be fine.
I think that's good though. I like that you can do that. That's a good type of recovery in my eyes. Because it's individualized and like it only works in niche scenarios. You just can't always do it like you can the Hallowed Wings like mid, right?
Yeah. Yeah, another one is if you have, like, let's say 2 people die on Crystalline Times Hallowed Wings, the tank can sack the Mornifa at the very least. Can't sack the Akmorn, but I mean, you could survive the Akmorn, I guess. But like,
Yeah.
they can sack the Mornifa entirely on just the main tank.
Which probably should also have faithlessness on it,
yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
But, you know.
There's little things, but you see like a lot of groups have 6 people all stacked for the Mornifa. I'd be like, hope we live. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be this way.
The highest count Akmorn was 4, right? In the entire fight?
Yes.
That's crazy.
because for some reason in the final phase it only hits once.
Yeah. Because E8S goes up to 7,
I need
right?
to
At the
watch
end of
this
World
again.
Worms Lament.
Yeah,
2?
it's 7.
Yeah. Do they even go from 3 to 4 in
No,
FRU?
no,
They're
they
just
don't.
both 4.
They're just
Yeah,
both
so like these really aren't even Akmorns. They fucking bastardized the name and like
Yeah.
slapped it onto a new mechanic, but nothing about them are Akmorns.
Yeah,
Do they
there's
even
no
follow
increase
Do they even follow the damage profile thing? Like, not only do they increase the number, but the first hit's supposed to do more, I believe, in the Knockmorn than the subsequent hits.
I think only Bahamut's is like that. I think Bahamut's the only one where the first
It
one is the
hunches, too.
critical hit. Yeah.
Um,
And all the resters, because E8S are definitely all the same amount of damage.
The final phase Akmorns, I'm convinced, are a typo, and it meant to say Mornifa. Like, because there's no way, they meant to call that an Akmorn.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, single hit. That was crazy.
Yeah, they just call it an Akmorn because it's 2 stacks, effectively. Yeah.
Might as well call it a water 6 or something. Like,
To be
what
fair,
are we doing here?
I feel like the community would do that too. Like if it was called something else, we'd just be like, yeah, the Akmorn, because of it targeting. Like I feel
I mean,
like
yeah,
we would
probably.
do that. Yeah,
Final Fantasy moment.
yeah. I
It
feel-
is, it is actually, that's, now that I'm thinking about it, if it wasn't just called Akmor, like you could give it any other name that like doesn't immediately telegraph that it's a 2 light party stacks, and like that takes longer to solve. Like
Yeah.
that's a very easy like little drop in.
Yeah, I genuinely think they just called it Akmorn, so you would immediately think to split up on each side. Like I think that's why they called it that, so you could tell. But meanwhile, they have Paradise Regained. You're like, I don't know what the fuck that means.
Yeah.
And the
Kings of Light and Dark.
Yeah, it's just like, wow, all of these names mean nothing to me. Guess I'll fucking die, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Does anyone have any theories on why Pandora's Box is called Pandora's Box?
It is
outside of a lore explanation.
Well, in
just-
fight lore, whatever, you know.
reference point kind of thing. It is a criminal to me that Pandora's Box does not give you a bunch of debuffs to deal with immediately, just like a little chaos thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I was
Where
thinking the same
is
thing. Like when we first saw it, like we were thinking Pandora's Box is going to be like this box of debuffs. It's like if a Morble fucking spit on you,
Yeah,
and, like everybody just got something random.
Yeah.
that would be so like it doesn't even have to be hard. Just like this person has a little spread, this person has a line, this person has a 3-person stack. Like that'd be so cool.
And now
In
do it
the
with
analyst
Exolines.
Discord, analyst Discord, we were theorizing that it would be a trio mechanic, and there would be like a real tough mechanic in the
Perfect
final
Alexander or
phase.
something.
Yeah, because we got there so fast. We're like, surely there's something. Pandora's Box is something.
No, raid wide. Please
Yeah,
understand.
I mean we can segue into the whole the phase as a whole, because I think like I don't know, the whole phase is the final phase just feels underwhelming to me.
Yeah.
Like the design is cool, the visuals are cool, but the mechanics are just like it just feels lackluster.
Yeah, once you're through the first minute of the fight, the fight is dead. You just have to do that.
And it's actually I was a friend brought this up. Like Dragon King Thoradin is very similarly structured, right? You've got these like 3 basic mechanics. You do it again, but DK does it 3 times, which feels like a little bit like hey, you really got to make sure you got this on lock. Whereas Pandora is we do it and then just do that again once and we're good.
Wait, hear me out. He does it 3 times because he has 3 swords.
Oh,
He
so
does it
true.
twice.
You're right.
The only thing he doesn't do all of them 3 times. He does so Pandora does just the first mechanic 3 times. Thornton does
Exolines, yeah.
Yeah, Thornton does 2 of his mechanics 3 times, basically. It's
He
that
only
time
does
you, it's that
giggle flip.
you know what it is. It's that time you lost from Pandora's Box. That's what
Oh
the
my
third-
god.
So you wouldn't. So okay. So you're saying that the final phase, you felt that the final phase was a little bit too, I wouldn't say forgiving, but let's say
Not forgiving.
It is the mechanics feel like there should be one more little piece to them. Like I feel like like maybe the line stacks thing. What is it called? Polarizing strikes. Maybe there's a half rim in between or something like that. Like just just one little extra thing.
So the damage downs weren't enough.
No.
Well, you
punishment.
turn them into deaths anyways, but it's
I'm not
more
even
so.
saying punishment.
I mean, but
It's
at the same
literally
time, like
a little bit more complexity.
at the same time, it felt like in that last phase, it was pretty rough to kind of die.
We cleared it with
Like,
2 healer deaths, which is ridiculous for a non-content
Yeah.
final phase. That's
Yeah.
obscene. And I should
I mean-
specify, it wasn't even close at that
Well,
point.
with healer deaths, right? But had it been anybody else, how
Yeah, and we could have killed it
No,
without.
my second group had the Picto die to the last Exolines, and we still cleared.
Like that's a lot of leeway when you put it in the context of pre-Dawn Trail DPS checks. Like you were not clearing 4th turn savages or ultimates with 2 deaths. Like usually ever. That's not really something that happens.
because, and the reason I say this is because, like, you know, when I guess it was Echo got there like earlier in the evening, like everybody did the math in terms of the damage down and everything. And when Echo got that, I guess what it was, it was a 5% wipe. They we were saying that like when the Dark Knight died for Echo, was it died or I think they got a damage down, but the Dark Knight got a damage down. Like they were saying that like that damage down was the clear.
I believe.
Yeah, was that the only thing that went wrong in that pool? Is that just the Dark Knight got a damage down?
Well,
Darn,
so
that got a damage
what you have to understand is, given the context of Prague and also World Prague in particular, like there's so much damage left to pull out of your ass, even after the clear, but like certainly before the clear. Like if the DPS check was harder, it just would have been, a couple more pulls, and then another 5% would have showed up out of nowhere, right? Like,
yeah. There's no doubt in my mind if they had a replicated pull to that with the Dark Knight damage on, they clear anyways. Like, not a shadow of a doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
There's 0% chance that a Dark Knight dying is 5% of the boss's damage, and there's so much leeway because in addition to like having 2 healer deaths, if you watch my VOD, you see that like I threw multiple piercing talons on the Exo lines. I stopped rolling my GCD. I did the wrong combo twice. Like there's so much sloppy gameplay that is still being tolerated within like the DPS check of that phase. It's incredibly lenient.
The big
only
thing,
one of them was probably enhanced.
no, I don't think he was elusiving in the middle of fucking Exoline Sly. That's some balls.
Callie did that in the clear. There is an elusive during the Exolines. I'm calling him out.
Let's fucking go!
Oh my
Yes!
That's so scary.
and you want to know the funny part? I looked at our kill log, and I think we still would have killed without an LB3 at the end.
We would have.
I killed without an LB3 this week.
Yeah, exactly. But like even during Prague, like and when we watched other people like who got like top 10 or top 20 clears, who literally did just like their LB didn't go off in time and they still killed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a big thing with I don't know when that
moment is done.
I don't know when that Dark Knight damage down happened because because the tanks are kind of stuck. There's not really the only time you can really die to reset that is right before. I'd say before the first polarizing, because the second one's like
it's rough. It's like looking at it, it's rough in terms of like how when and where you would die to just get rid of the damage.
Only for the tank though. Like the tank is the only one who it's like, is there really a good time? Because sometimes you fuck aggro right before Wings of Dark and Light, and that can like throw off what the tanks are used to doing. But more specifically, like if you're forced to sit through the whole phase as a tank, because if you get that damage down on the first Exoline as a tank, you're probably stuck with it for the rest of the phase.
Yeah, and they
what
were.
about Pandora's box?
Yeah, Pandora's box you could die. So I guess really it's
I did
after
that
Pandora's
once.
box.
So
I clicked off
again,
the LB.
the damage down was like a 90% damage down.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
If
think
we're
they're like all
back
90.
Yeah, you're basically doing nothing.
a Realm Reborn numbers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing, this is just kind of like on a tangent, but the idea that the Exolines give an aspected vuln is like interesting because then that means like maybe you get insta-killed by the Akmorn, but that is largely of no consequence to the fight at large. If anything, it's actually a good thing because you want to die to that Akmorn. Maybe not if you're a tank, but if you're anybody else and you got damage down on the Exolines, you now want to be in the similarly aspected Akmorn stack. That's just like so strange to me. I don't know. It just feels like a total accident that ended up working. I think they designed it thinking like, oh, this will be a gotcha, right? Like now you got to go to the other one, but it's like, no, you want to be the one that kills you to get rid of the damage down.
Yeah, they like weren't thinking about the consequence of the damage down when they were thinking about the consequence of the aspect. It was like 2 different people designed it, or like they designed it and then they added the damage down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really sucks when you get it and then you're like, oh, fuck. Kill me!
But I guess to kind of back up a second, this is part of the reason why that final phase feels underwhelming, is because if there's any fight that gets judged in the context of the fight as a whole, it's the last phase. The last phase feels underwhelming coming after everything before it because everything before it was relatively easy for an ultimate. And then when you also pair that with an easy DPS check, it's like, well, it feels like there's something missing, right? If you put Pandora at the end of top, it's like, okay, we just got through literal hell on earth phase 5 and everything before it. Like we deserve the easy W, right? It's kind of the same way people look at Golden as the victory lap. But here it didn't feel like you had earned a victory lap and to be given one
as opposed
out of place.
opposed to a DSR, which is this feels kind of similar to.
No, Dragon King Thornton, he deserves his spot where he is. That motherfucker is
DK is a harder phase, and it also deals significantly more damage, whereas Pandora does not deal very much raid wide damage at all.
Also, DSR contextualized, like, in a lot of ways was the stepping stone that led to like modern ulti design. So like it was harder at that time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the auto attacks in the final phase effectively meaning that if somebody dies out of order to a mechanic, it kind of falls apart if they're not back up in time is another.
They need to do that again. They need to do auto attacks as a mechanic because just
Yeah.
having some random double autos in Pandora is a little bit like whatever.
And tops don't count because tops are the tanks in the right. They're tank position checks. They're not like
that is at least better. That's
Yeah,
at
that's
least like
something.
to engage with.
there's a brain on check for it.
Yeah.
But I think another part that was missing from Pandora was just, and Nari brought this up, was damage. Like, if you watch our top clear VOD, I'm sitting there, I'm calling out the mechanics, but I'm also calling out everybody's MIT for every single mechanic, because we needed every single piece of MIT that we had, and if anyone forgot it, we probably wiped. In this, we barely filled out a MIT sheet. We're like, oh well, what we're doing works. So like, why do we need to change it? And then it died.
Yeah.
Right.
The only thing that deals damage in the whole phase is Wings of Dark and Light, which is 2 500,000 hits to each tank. But that's it. Nothing else like hurts enough. Like you have to plan a little bit just to make sure there's something on every instance, but it's not top.
To give
And they're also like,
perspective-
what, 2 minutes apart exactly almost?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, it's very easy also for that
To
reason.
give perspective
Now-
on how like different these things are, top P6 had so much incoming damage that it literally made us rethink our entire like composition paradigm in terms of how much mitigation do we bring and how much do we value it. We sat down and had a multi-hour long conversation on how we would approach that in the future because of how difficult it was to design your mitigation plan for P6. This was an absolute joke compared to that.
There have been Savage End Boss. You know how the Savage End Bosses have like 2 minutes of damage usually at the end? Like, many of those are harder to deal with MIT-wise than anything in this entire fight.
That's Sword Quiver was like more damage.
Yeah.
Wait, what's sword quiver?
That's
Alright, good question.
good point. You're right. I mean, we saw it in our
Mechanic
clear.
at the end.
Yeah, but we took
If-
Not the tank mechanic.
if anyone hasn't seen our M4S, we cleared with the final from the second Sword Quiver on with just me and Kareth as the tanks alive. It was great.
That's good. That's
Um,
natural.
But yeah, it's like I don't know. That's again. It feels it just the phase as a whole is just like it needs a little more something to feel more impactful. And I wish it was because the design's really cool. The aesthetics are really
Yeah.
cool.
It's a gorgeous phase.
I will continue to like doing it forever. I just wish it was more.
Now,
I would
wanna,
say actually
like,
even just like, not just a little more of something, I would say a little more of everything is what is missing.
Now, I kind of want to go back to your Fogler dodges because, like, we like when we were, waiting in the wings to do cocktail hour, and we were watching, and we were watching you, we were watching Lucrezia, we were watching everybody. The dodges like y'all did were like teams' philosophies were pretty different. Lucrezia's had one where they kept complete uptime, whereas y'all kind of, backed off a little bit. Like,
That
what
was
led to that?
So those dodges are like almost purely personal responsibility, right? There's not really
Okay.
much interaction between you and someone else. So it's literally just whatever you see that clicks for you. As long as you don't get hit, you're good to go. And in our case, Perry, our caster and lead, basically was just like, I see this dodge, the one we ended up doing, or most of us ended up doing. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's the positions to stand in. And 6 of us immediately went, that makes sense. We're going to do that forever.
Yeah, and at that point, we could see that there was potential for downtime. It's not always downtime. It depends on the configuration you get. But we knew without spending a millisecond of thought on it that the damage loss wouldn't matter. It's impossible for the damage loss of a downtime strat to matter because of Pictomancer. Like it really is that simple of an equation, right? Like
At
was. Go ahead.
At least if it does matter, like if we get to the end of the fight and we're like, hey, the DPS check is actually tight, then we can revisit. But we didn't have to yet because like we have something that works to let us see further.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like curious about that because like Lucrezia just kept like the way they did their dodges. Like we were looking at yours, we were looking at Echo's, we were looking at Lucrezia's, and Lucrezia just kept uptime for whatever bumfuck random reason or reasoning or strat they had. They for somehow kept up uptime the entirety of the mechanic.
I mean, that was just I think the dodge that made sense to them first, and that was the dodge they got working. So it's the one that they did.
Yeah.
These things are very much, you take them like as you see them and you don't change it unless you have to at that point.
Yeah, a great example is Neverland's Dragon King Thornton Exo dodges, which were nonsense.
Did they just like just
go to the
everyone
wall,
run out and watch
go to
out?
the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know, just envision an apple in your head and now envision it doing exaflares. You know?
Exactly.
Well, now that explains everything.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help.
No, I'm happy.
Shit.
See.
But yeah, that is another point
See?
regarding like the damage check is like we did downtime exaflares and we still didn't need the LB, right? Like that's how irrelevant the check was.
Okay.
Thanks, Pictomancer.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Well,
Pictomancer.
The good news is your strat, it didn't require a single red dot.
It's true.
True.
Okay, here we go. So let's open it.
Listen, I got 24 minutes till raid. I had to move.
We had to open up this can of worms. So let's go ahead and open it up now. So yeah, I had my drink. Get on your soapbox. I'm here. We are listening. We are here for you.
Yeah. So, God, there's so much to talk about because there's so many different aspects of this. I guess the first and maybe the most pertinent is like, what's up with the whole, did they get world first? And this is so tedious for us because the red dot incident just was a detraction from the world race event. It shifted a lot of the discourse from like, we're hyped that teams are competing, that this race was close, and like Echo and Lucrezia had a super good, like tight race at the end or whatever. And now half of the discourse is on like, well, did Grind get world first or not? And it's really tedious because there's no good way to answer that question that makes everybody happy.
But let me break this up real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt, but when that happened, did any of you hear about it, and did it affect the way you tackled it?
I think, Immo, did you know about it? I think you did, right?
Yeah. The analysts, we found out about it instantly. We didn't really tell the raiders, but I know a couple of them saw the memes.
Yeah, we're kept in tension.
So did it affect y'all in any way?
I would say the effect was probably pretty minimal from my understanding of how the raiders reacted.
We traditionally, and this is again true this time, like our goal is always stream first. We don't tend to care about much else. So that's kind of it's basically that's why it's like we weren't ever expecting to get like an air quotes true world first, whatever that means. So that it was just like hey, that happened. All right, let's continue.
But I am very glad I didn't know about it because it is, although it's not a big deal and everything Nari said is completely true, it is always going to be some degree of distraction.
Yeah.
And that's why like our analysts knew to withhold that information from us. And I think the vast majority of us didn't know about it because of that.
Yeah, there's a couple of raiders that like to know, but most of them don't really want to know for the reasons that Callie specified.
Yeah.
So... okay, devil's advocate here. Had this been a legitimate clear, let's say this was like, let's say clear. Devil's advocate. Yeah. Like Echo or anybody like Lucrezia like did it without red dot or any add-ons. Had it been that, and you had the knowledge about it, would that have affected you?
No, because
I don't think that made a difference.
I think this is very subjective, but my outlook on this is, as you're progging, you're there for every mistake and every blunder that you and all of your teammates make. And it's very natural for you to just start kind of mentally cataloging these things and say to yourself, well, if I didn't mess up here, like we'd be further ahead in Prague. If that person didn't mess up there, we'd be further ahead in Prague. And by the end of Prague, you realize like, oh, if we had all played better on this section, an actual example, I think, is ultimate relativity. A lot of us just kind of struggled on it a bit. If we had all just progged ultimate relativity faster, could we have cleared the fight 6 hours faster? Sure, absolutely. And so it becomes very natural for you to think, well, what if there was just a team that did what we did, but they just progged ultimate relativity 6 hours faster, right? And so you view it through this lens of like, yeah, that's totally plausible. I could totally see a team clearing at that point in time. Especially in the case of FRU, where it really was just a matter of hours. This was kind of different for Top, where it felt like Unnamed had cleared so much faster than the teams that were streaming that it was a little kind of mind-boggling. But for FRU, definitely not the case.
Not as mind-boggling as T, but yeah, pretty.
Yeah, well, at least T like had something that, it was totally rationalized
reason,
after
yeah.
the fact, right? Like it made sense.
It's like, oh, they figured it out, so they crushed everyone.
Yeah, but for 3 days, everyone was just like,
Yeah, what? The private servers? What?
Yeah.
it's so funny that T began the memes for private servers and then the sim was made for Wormhole right afterwards. It was fucking a self-fulfilling prophecy that I'd never, ever seen before. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, I just compete for as high a placement as possible. Very pleased with the placement for this one. And even then, I would say, like, you just don't even want the distraction of what other teams are doing. Like,
Absolutely.
Like viewers want that more than you do.
The only thing it can do is
right. And we were like, and to be honest, like we were all kind of eating it up a little bit, like, and like the grind clear came through and it's like, okay, well, at that point we were like, is it a meme or is it not? Because like there was a meme earlier and yada yada yada, and then people confirmed through Twitter like, yeah, that was a clear, and then Reddit. I say that because goddamn Reddit was on fucking fire the minute it happened, the exact second.
Yeah,
so
some good memes.
There was that. Yeah, so many good memes from Reddit.
The Mustadio ones are my favorite.
Mr. President, get down.
I just like the emote that was called Alamud.
Yeah. So after that, it was like from the official World Race, it was removed from the cast, from the Echo cast. It was removed, and like it was anybody's race again. So again, you said it really didn't affect you, and then lo and behold, there you go. You got the clear.
Yeah. So it doesn't affect. I think is like a contextual thing. Like, I think that's more about Raiders' mental. Like, when it comes to the strategy of the race, in terms of, like, how other teams are doing, and, like, what we're trying to do for placement, I would say that Jenny, the other head analyst, and I are basically, like, Illuminatiing that. Like, we're looking at the other teams, and we're being like, we need to sleep now, we need to stay up, this is what our placement is looking like, blah, blah, blah. And we just, like, it's our opinion that it's not good for the Raiders to be thinking about that. Other teams have different philosophies, but we feel that it's better for our group, for us to be doing that and them not have to worry about it, and for us just to pop up and be like, we need to sleep now for this reason, or we need to push now to get this clear, whatever.
So well, real quick for clarification, your group had a 9th and 10th man. Right?
We had
more than that.
We had 6 analysts.
6 or 7 analysts.
Oh Jesus fucking Christ! Okay,
Yeah.
you had the NFL team, like you had the NFL on
special teams coach. Yeah.
You had the Fox on NFL like back
and what you have
rooms.
to understand is like we're not even the biggest. Like there are
Yeah.
bigger analyst teams out there.
Holy
I think
shit.
DN's analyst roster is bigger than their actual rating.
Holy fuck. Like, and see, I didn't even know about it. I didn't even know it went that deep. I mean, I knew about like a 9th and 10th man, but y'all had fucking analysts.
Right.
Yeah, they
We
had
You
their
had
own
Fox
Discord.
Sports. You had
There's-
ESPN.
There's like five of them, maybe 6 of them, are sitting in the call with us, deafened, while they're sitting in a second Discord call so they can chat amongst themselves.
Yeah.
They also have
Shit,
their
you
own
had.
workspace
Go
in
ahead.
our diagramming setup. We use Excalibur for diagramming, and they have their own
Oh my
workspace in there
God.
and everything.
You
There's just
literally
always
had
things that need
ESPN.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had
Oh.
ESPN.
Yep.
You had literal.
If you look
Go
at the
ahead.
Kracia's stream, like if they had their Discord call on the
Yeah.
like left side of the main stream, it goes down to the bottom of the screen. Like
yeah.
it's a wall of people, right? Like that's the point.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
It's
and I
not like
saw
the
that.
days of like Khalees sitting in call with TPS. And that's their like big advantage over everyone else is that they have an analyst at all. It's like
Right.
people have teams of analysts. The quality of your analysts matters, not just how do you have analysts. Like it's a whole new world.
Gigantic.
By the
shout out,
way,
our analyst team was fantastic this time.
Yeah. By the way, how was that analyst art? Like, by the way, because I usually have to ask about that because I'm a stickler for strat art. So how was that analyst art, by the way?
It was better this time than it had ever been before.
Yeah.
Due to a multitude of reasons, we've kind of
Incident.
we've been evolving kind of our approach to creating strategy diagrams in order to make them more readable, more modular, and just more to improve their ease of use, really. And so we ended up with a lot of very, very beautiful illustrations by the end of Prague, a lot of which were created by the
damn.
analysts.
You can see them on ultistrats.com.
You wanna
.com.
Sly, you wanna know something that will absolutely blow your mind?
Blow my mind.
I'm doing performance reviews for the analysts.
Oh my god.
It's like a job at this point, dude.
Yeah, apparently it is.
People will see 8 players in game, but the reality is a competitive team is really closer
No. Like,
to like.
and see, I knew that, and I knew that, but I didn't know it went that deep.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I didn't know. Like, I'm aware of the like 9th man, maybe a 10th. No, your shit went like ESPN levels of deep. Like you had analysts, you had the whiteboard, you had the whole like scribble on while you're fucking doing the shit, like a football game where you watch where they're scribbling over the replays and everything.
Yeah.
That's what you had.
Yep.
That's literally what you had.
They all had divided roles and stuff too. Like it was Immo's job to be the bridge between the Raiders and the analyst team and all that stuff.
Yeah. Personally, I think it's great because, a lot of people that have never been involved in the world race have this preconception that it's just somehow this arms race between like plug-in usage and cheating versus Square Enix creating harder and harder fights. But reality is that a huge part of the evolution of the world race is just improving your teamwork and your allocation of resources and the asynchronous utilization of what are basically just like human computers, right? Like the analysts are essentially just async CPU threads that can run tasks for you. And I think that's really great because it's a super cool collaborative process that allows all of the members, not just the rating members, but everybody involved with the team to become something that's so much more than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
And I actually think it's a great opportunity for a lot of people. Like there are a lot of people who are extremely like knowledgeable about the game and they've cleared Savage and they've cleared Ultimate, but they have not or will not are not capable of putting in the work and acquiring the skill to be a world first raider, but they still know so much about the game. They still have so much to contribute, and an analyst role on a hardcore or world race team is, I think, a great way to participate in a really interesting and enjoyable way for a lot of these people. That's like I quit organized rating, like static rating, And then the next year I was an analyst, and I was like, this is like a way for me to get the joy of prog, except it's, day one
You're
kill
Batman.
instead of day 6.
You're Batman, essentially.
You want to tell them how you got the job?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yo,
please,
Twitch chat,
please.
listen very closely.
Oh no.
Okay.
The best way to become an analyst for a stream team is to put your extremely good ideas in Twitch chat and make sure that they notice you. You should do this in every Twitch chat you could find, because that's how I became an analyst.
I wish.
Well,
exclamation mark backseat rule.
Yeah.
Ironically, like,
He's gonna say that. He's gonna say that. Like,
the
go
way
ahead.
I became an analyst is I used to be a regular in Kareth's stream, and I did a lot of like clipping and diagramming for him in Eden's Promise, and then for DSR I actually did some like data collection and like figuring out of like what goes on what people for them, just like in the background in Kareth's Twitch chat. And then after that, Kareth was like, yo, do you want to like come analyst for us, because like this has been useful.
DSR,
yes.
we did full blind, not actually intending to race, although we did end up placing quite well. So we didn't have an analyst for DSR, and then the next Savage tier, we were like, all right, we're gonna actually race this time, and then we need an analyst. So here we go.
I want to be clear, that was a one-time thing. If you come into my chat and tell me anything, I'm
No.
I will not even warn you. I will.
Don't listen to him.
You'll be gone.
Let's
Don't listen
go.
to him.
Let's go.
Guys, you need to go into Mrhappy's chat next prog and tell him all of your best ideas.
Nope.
Listen, let me tell you this.
Nope.
Here's what's
You will
gonna
be
happen.
met with the biggest ban hammer.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
Healers are supposed to be in Mrhappy.
Here's the problem is that if you do that and it's successful, it's going to get named the Mrhappy strat. So you don't want to do that. Yeah.
That's true.
And I already have a
God.
strat for this in JP. That's already got my name on it. So.
I'm
my
excited
God.
for if PF picks up our Paradise Regained strat. It's going to be Kindred Dark and Light, and I'm going to strangle someone.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
like
Mr. Happy Ultimate Relativity Awk. So.
Oh my god.
Yeah. That's what it's called.
So because we have like 7 minutes left, I want to get to the elephant in the room. There are so many elephants in this fucking room that it's like we can't even fit anymore. But the world race as a whole, let's talk about that. Haps, you've given your biggest fucking stance, and I've read it in its entirety on Twitter. Really, we're doing this. We're really fucking doing this. We're really fucking doing this.
I hadn't noticed. I aimed it right at the camera at one point. There you go.
Yeah, so I want to talk about essentially the logistics, because Frosty released his statement, and Frosty's been the one who kind of spearheaded the whole world race thing, tracking and everything like that, and then leading up to Echo's thing. How do you guys feel about like where the world race is right now in terms of notoriety, in terms of identifying who did what and everything, and how do you think it can be improved?
Okay, so I'd like to get one comment out, and then I'll let Kareth and Callie soapbox for like 20 minutes.
Let's go.
Go ahead.
If Yoshi P added a combat log dump and a no clippy to the game, I don't think there would be any problems anymore.
Okay. Fair.
I mean, I basically agree with that, but like, I already replied to Mrhappy on this, or not Mrhappy, sorry, Frosty, the other one.
Oh,
Wow.
the other white bearded guy on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one.
Oh, the second half of the podcast, FF14 universe.
Yeah. Okay.
But
There you go.
basically, like I think, he might he's like holding out for the Square Enix involvement, but like Square Enix like isn't going to do that because they like suck, right? Like they've only the only time they've ever interacted with the world race is to like negatively contribute, like to serve out punishment. They, outside of like hand waving and congratulatory statements, they never really like positively impact the race or like guide it at all, right? And because of that,
Okay.
to me, it seems like it should be a community owned event, which it kind of already
Mhm.
is, and the community
Yeah.
should drive the ruling. Similar, and to the people in the Twitter comments that cannot fathom how this could be done, you can go to speedrun.com and you can see millions of communities that have derived their own form of leaderboards and rules for a game not sanctioned by the like author of the game. Like, this is not
Okay,
a novel concept.
And not to interrupt anybody else's answer, but okay, I'll give you that. But how do you police it?
Well, I mean, you can add certain proof standards. So like without like it's hard to get into it without the nuance, but like removing FF logs actually makes it harder to police things. Like, so if you remove logging, you can have little Timmy over there running XIV Alexander cranked up to 9,000 doing deca weaves for fun without clipping, and you're never going to know because you have no way of auditing how he hit his buttons, right? What are you going to like look at the clear VOD maybe if he has one and like zoom in on the pixels? Like, no, you're not. You're never going to know. Timmy's going to get away with it and he's going to get world first. Like,
Okay.
and like, yeah, a lot of things can be hidden, but like removing the one vector we have of like observing that is only making it worse. And so I think it's better simply to, put light proof standards on. Like, I think a VOD is fine. I don't know if streaming should be required, but like, I don't really want to open that can of fucking worms. But like, I think like a VOD of the full
No. Like, go ham, King. Go. Do your
I just
thing.
I think a full VOD of the entire prog process from like at least one perspective, along with like a list of allowed plugins, which I think, as Immo said, would probably, if the community vote on, would be no clippy and then like ACT with nothing else on it, just for logging, right? And that would be it, right? And then obviously you can't cover all the cases because you don't have the power to. But like speedrunning, you can find alternative ways of analyzing peripheral data to suss out if something's wrong or not. Like, yeah, you don't have access to Dream's fucking Minecraft save, but people still got his ass, right? Like, you can use peripheral data to sort that out. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it seems like the only reasonable way forward.
Yeah. Like, and everybody else, like, if you want to like chime in, please.
We're not
my
ever
Twitter
going-
has everything that I like. I've said
like I said, like I've read yours and
Yeah.
I've read yours to a fucking T.
We're not ever going to actually be able to directly address the verification and validation problem unless Square Enix starts like flying people out to LAN, right? And something like that could maybe happen, but unless it does, it's not worth taking into the equation. So we work with what we have, and what we have is very much the signal intelligence kind of methodology when it comes to catching cheating, and that is using your context clues. It's the dream situation. It's what Kareth described. And because that's all we have to work with, the race really should just be designed around embracing that instead of pretending like we can somehow enforce things that we can't. And to that extent, I would much prefer if we could be transparent with the community about what actually goes on behind the scenes in terms of what tools are used in the world race. And for anybody that doesn't know, that is ACT in either XIV Alexander or no clippy. You're not really ever going to find reasonable people that have moral objections to using either of those tools. So teams are not ever going to stop using either of those tools, even if you tell them it's technically cheating. So instead of trying to pretend that that's somehow a problem, let's just be honest about it and move on, right?
Yep.
there's going to be a lot of people that'll then, serve that with the rebuttal of, okay, well, sanctioning a race where people can use ACT and no Clippy kills any chance of involvement from Square Enix, which, A, yeah, exactly, there kind of isn't already a chance, and B, we don't know that. Specifically, what sanctioning a race with ACT and no Clippy does is maybe remove a chance that Square Enix might someday sponsor the race. There's like 4 layers of conditionals in here, and at that point, I'm past the threshold of caring, right? Like, if they want to get involved and start contributing to the race and kind of reshaping it in their own vision, that's fine, and they have every right to do that. But they need to be a little bit more concrete about it instead of making vague Twitter posts about how they're disappointed in the community or thinking that a tweet congratulating the team is somehow a major contribution to the world race scene, right? If that's going to be the extent of their involvement, that's fine. But then we really reserve the right as a community to do what we want to do with the world race, which is embrace the spectacle of it, right? After Top, it became very clear that the world race is not about the first team to clear the content. It's about creating an engaging and entertaining spectacle that the community feels that they're a part of, not just an audience for and not just spectators, but actually a part of the process. And that's why Top was this amazing thing that everybody remembers so fondly. We weren't anywhere close to being the first team to clear it. I think we were 6th, but it was an absolutely beloved event that everybody had an amazing time with, and it was because of the spectacle that the race event created. So that is what I would like to see embraced moving forwards.
Yeah, I mean, my TLDR was just that people are literally huffing something if they think Square Enix is going to do literally any of the things that they were like, oh, give them a private server with anti-cheat or have them fly out to events. And I'm like, you guys are like, anyone who suggests that has no idea how difficult. There's about to be, keep in mind, Korea and China are about to be on parity. So they're about to be part of the world race. Coming up in like probably a few more tiers, at least by 8.0. And good fucking luck having Square work with the publishers in 2 separate countries that run their fucking game to try to coordinate. It's literally, and then how do you decide who's invited? Can anyone download the anti-cheat client? How long do they have it? Do people start hiring people to find ways around anti-cheat? Does the anti-cheat even detect it? The red dot thing is not a game altering program. It's an overlay. Like, you can't think they're so fucking winning for any of those situations. It's fucking huffing something. And you don't want WoW's world race where people put where the 2 top teams, Blizzard fucks their entire balance just to make a world race entertaining by making bosses they don't even know fucking clearable that they have to randomly 50% nerf. And the teams have to spend $100,000 pumping gold into the game and renting out venues and shit to even stand a chance. Like, that's none of that shit's gonna happen. Like, get your fucking mind. What we have now is basically say like a few stipulations, like, please don't use any of these things, and review the footage, and if it's foul, we get a fucking meme out of it that everyone's gonna overdo for the next fucking 6 years. And if the team's legit, then they get fucking declared. Who cares? At this point, it's like we run this shit. Just worry about us. Just worry about having a good time. It's not that big a fucking deal. It's Final Fantasy 14. This isn't Major League Baseball. Like, I saw somebody be like, oh, sports teams have anti-doping. Imagine if that didn't happen. Like, this isn't fucking football. This is Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, despite us having the ESPN analyst desk, it's still not actually a competitive sport.
Yeah, we don't get paid anything, bro. We're doing this for the love of the game.
Yeah, bro, they get paid tens of millions of dollars. Well, I mean, the people, the first drafters.
The quarterbacks, sure, yeah.
The first drafters get paid. The other people, actually don't make as much as people make. But besides the point.
I think the real actionable improvement that could be made is I think the world race is actually kind of fine as it is right now, but I do think there should be a little bit more organized arbitration, basically. It doesn't need to just be Frosty with the Excel spreadsheet. We can have maybe a community team, a board basically kind of thing, or a Discord of community feedback, and just make it more of an event rather than just simply a thing that happens and a guy with an Excel spreadsheet is tracking.
as long as it doesn't end up like WoW's, because I cannot understand why people want that. Because like one of the things that truly makes FF's race special is how like grassroots it is.
Yeah,
and like I see it all the time on Twitter. I never reply because like the only thing I'm going to tell them is like, please remove glue from your diet. But like, I they live in the fantasy world. Like, there's no way that's ever going to happen.
Nope. Not a fucking chance. And even then, Blizzard just says, hey, there's an achievement that says world first and we like add-ons in our game. So, you know, just don't break like the terms of service. Hey, they know what they say. They say, don't break the terms of service. Their terms of service just have some add-ons that are available. They actually do have some shit that they don't allow, but, you know.
What? There's stuff that used to be allowed that isn't allowed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And because they actively manage what they do want to allow or not allow in their game. And Square Enix doesn't want to do that, which is fine. That's their prerogative. But that's what we have to live with, right? So we kind of have to do things on our own.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people out there that think Square Enix is forced to put out this gray area statement where it's like this weird, complicated relationship of they say everything's banned, but in actuality, certain things aren't banned. That doesn't have to be like that. That's just how things are, but they can be so much better than that. There can be extremely explicit rules that actually reflect the reality of the game and the rating scene. There just aren't, because they've decided not to do that.
The problem is because there's no officially released API, which is also because of a console version. It is actually illegal in the country of Japan to modify game files. So they can't, without officially releasing add-on support, they can't ever live in anything but a gray area because it's their own country's laws that it's like, I forget what it's called. It's the something Protection Act or something.
I'm skeptical that is true. Like, people say that. I'm not convinced. Like, they're not the only Japanese game out there. Right.
No, they're not. But that's as long as they don't have the API. Honestly, the console thing is the big thing because if they make the API available for PC, they also have to develop out basically. I mean, it's been done. Other games, Bethesda's done it with like an app store. So to keep parity, they keep it against. It seems they keep it against terms of service, which as long as it's against terms of service,
the parity argument, I definitely accept. Like that seems very reasonable to me. I'm just not convinced that the illegal in Japan thing is not just like a giant game of telephone that has happened over the last like 3 years from JP to NA somehow.
I had a source for it that I was looking at a few months ago. Again, it's something Protection Act. I can't remember what it's called. There's an exact name.
If you find that, I'd be very interested because if that's real, that's kind of crazy. But I'm just not convinced.
It's Nintendo.
Yeah. Honestly, I bet Nintendo did. No, yeah, it's there's a lot of laws like that when it comes to all forms of creation. Like, there's some very, very bad like music laws, for example, movie laws, like all of the laws in regards to create, because the act of creating something and the finished product's a lot more valuable in Japan, and it's a lot more of like possessive. So it is game files that technically fall under that. So it's just one of those.
The wording of something like that would have to be wild because something like AZT can't even fall under the scope I would think of as modifying game files because that's
reads them. That's the
what
that would have to be pretty egregious
in Notepad and read it with your fucking eyes. What are they going to do then?
Effectively, it's a program that reads with the capability of altering. Like it's really, really fucking annoying. There's one other thing that
I mean, your NVIDIA driver reads and even modifies the game. Like, what do you want, man? Like,
it's one of those. I bet even the law exists in a gray area. It's just it's complicated as fuck, and it's likely not going to change. That's the bottom line. Is community driven event, community driven rules. Just don't do it because you want Yoshi P to pat you on the back. Do it because it's really fun and it puts on a good show and you enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And look, even if we have community rules, the reality is that there will be teams that don't want to participate in those rules, and that's okay. You know, we are doing the prog that we want to be doing, and other people do the prog that they want to do, and that's how the game works.
Yeah. Ultimately, Kindred's entire existence in the public spotlight is entirely due to the fact that the way we decided we want to play the game just happens to coincide with what the world first race deems acceptable, right? Like the static was not originally formed with the intention of being a front runner in the world race or anything. It's just the way we prog is the school of thought that most people will subscribe to as being okay and acceptable and ethical and legitimate, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nintendo does some. Capcom. I forgot. Capcom won a huge trade a couple of years ago on.
They did, yeah.
Stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. It's rough. But either way, it is what it is. We just need to focus on the positives and what we can do that is good. And yeah, I think ACT, the ACT thing is. I have a vanilla client. I don't even have ACT on my PC. Like, I'm as bare bones vanilla as you can fucking get. And even I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
I mean, Yoshi P had a combat log dump. We don't need anything.
Yeah, like here's the thing. Even if you made ACT and like logging on FF logs not allowed, people would just develop a like client side like log reader, and let's just do it privately. Like, what are you gonna do? Like,
yeah. If we had more time here, I would absolutely get on the soapbox of how both the latency mitigation and combat log reading issues could trivially be solved with a first-party Square Enix solution.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. We have an open forum afterwards. Yeah,
so I'm 10 minutes late to raid, so we're gonna do a quick wrap up here at the end. Sly, however, is gonna continue the show on his stream afterwards with a post op. I see you guys, I guess, have been discussing that in Discord. I couldn't tab over because otherwise all the cameras are gonna get screwed up. But I can see five notifications. Could look at it on my phone though. So I do appreciate all of you taking the time. I hope you had a fun time talking about Futures Rewritten Ultimate. Almost took as long as beating the fight to do the podcast. So, you know, that's
True.
That's good, though.
I love you.
God damn it.
Thanks for having us, Mr. Happy. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on. Like on short notice, and Happy wrangled you. So I'm usually the one who does guest wrangling, but Happy wrangled you. And Nari, you wrangled everybody else. So Nari,
I just said, hey, who wants to show up? And they were all like, yes.
It's my chat has a good point, bro. I don't even have the esthetician unlocked. That's how fucking vanilla I am.
Oh my
god!
If I know anything,
I at least have that. God damn.
If I know anything about my raid team, it is that they love to talk all the time.
It's true.
We would never.
It's been a problem with Prague too. We can't get people to stop talking about strats.
All right. The question is, do y'all have alcohol?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did
Okay. Good. Yeah.
Right.
We're good. We're good for after.
For the post show. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're good for after.
Okay.
Happy. We're good.
Let's get to the outro so I can stop delaying my team. All right, because we only have till 8 p.m. and it's already almost 5:15. So thank you for joining us. Just do a quick roll call. You can say whatever you want to say on the outro. We'll start with Nari.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Game is good. We like to talk about it and like talk about all the bad aspects all the time, but I love it. It's a blast. Also, trans rights.
Yes.
Hey.
Yes. Hey, let's go.
Calypso.
Yeah, I love to hear the sound of my own voice, and hopefully you all do too, because I just spent 2 hours yapping, but it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I was here.
Good to have you. Kareth.
Yeah, I'm Kareth, and tank homogenization and class homogenization is bad, regardless of what your favorite YouTuber says.
Sorry. Anyway.
Inflation Nation.
Yeah, I got thrown off. Immo. I lost my bearings.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. It was a really fun prog, even if it was a bit short. And I'd like to encourage anyone who is interested in the analyst work to please dip your toes into it. It's a growing field, and there's a lot of space for people to participate in the world race and the world race community, and even just hardcore raiding in a different and new way. So have fun, guys.
Have fun. And yes, by the way, in case anyone's wondering, this is a good first ultimate. If you're new to it.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a great starting point.
Yes. Sly.
Yes, you can find me at twitch.tv/Sly, aka Gray Fox. You can find me on Twitter, Sly, aka Gray Fox. Blue Sky, same thing, Sly, aka Gray Fox. Yes, first Saturday is this Saturday. I will be having we'll start like pre-Starlight celebration, where we listen to some, Crema City Pop and just get down with a get down. But of course, after the stream, Calypso, you good? Or do you have any plans after the stream, Calypso?
Nope, I'm here to yap. I'll yap until I drop.
okay.
Yeah.
All right,
we
so
don't shut up. We never stop.
okay, we are good. So after State of the Realm, I will be going live on my stream, and I will be hosting these 4 members of Kindred to answer your questions, and maybe yap some more about FRU and other things. So if you want to yap with members of Kindred, you can come to my stream, twitch.tv/Sly, aka Great Fox, right after this. Yep. So there you go. Happy.
I'm Mr. Happy, and I'm late for raid, so you'll have to figure out the rest of how to find me. You're already here anyway, so just fuck it. Just Google me. I don't know. You'll get like underwear with like a smiley face on it occasionally, but that's about it. All right. And that's it. That's my outro. Okay. So, yeah, like I said, we're going to go into a very, very, very short post show of literally about 20 seconds, and then I'm going to leave the call, and I'm going to stop griefing my team. So, thank you again, everyone, for joining. Thanks again to the sponsors over on Patreon. This will be on YouTube and audio format on Friday, as usually do it the day after, so December 6th. And Path of Exile 2. Be sure to come by and do the Support a Streamer program, because I'm going to be doing a sponsored stream, and I'm going to be playing it all weekend, too, because it's Elemental Monk. And
fucking same, dude!
Yeah, the servers probably won't work, but, I've got Fantasian in that case, so we're good. Yeah, we're good. All right. Anyway, we will see you next week for something. I'll figure it out after. But right now, we're going. So outro screen right there, and cut for YouTube. Okay.
Let's go. Happy. Thank you.